He picked the trash class that everyone laughed at, but he's hiding a glitch that breaks reality. While other players wait for cooldowns, his system turns every ultimate move into a permanent passive skill. He literally has infinite ammo and infinite power. Now, the campus goddess who looked down on him, she's simping hard, and the arrogant elites who tried to humiliate him, he destroys them without even looking. He went from a freedom-loving nobody to a total RIZZ master who conquers dungeons and hearts. So, the story begins in a school classroom where the air is thick with tension. The students have just heard that the awakening exam is scheduled for tomorrow. Everyone is nervous, unable to even picture what kind of special talent they might unlock. Tianmo opens his eyes and mentions that he finally feels rested. He looks around at his classmates, squinting slightly as he stares ahead. Suddenly, his eyes widen in shock as he tries to figure out where he is. Feeling overwhelmed, he hunches over and clutches his head. The scene shifts to a modern city. This world is known as the Blue Star, and from a distance, it looks just like Earth. However, a century ago, the world as everyone knew it fell apart and changed forever. Dangerous creatures swarmed the land, and many people were either lost or badly hurt. Fortunately, humans started being born with unique abilities. Once they passed the awakening exam, they discover their specific talents and use them to protect the world from the monster invasion. Because of this, the awakened are the true leaders of this society. Looking around, Tianmo realizes the world feels exactly like a game he played before the collapse. Looking at his hands, he feels as if he has merged with that game's reality. He remembers how he used to defeat every enemy in the game. He was just one step away from total victory, but his skill cooldowns and limited damage output prevented him from finishing the final boss, who kept summoning more minions. Tianmo remembers breathing heavily and being surrounded by enemies in that final moment. Back in the real world, he hits his desk with his fist, frustrated that he was so close to becoming a legend. Suddenly, someone taps him on the back. His friend Li Hong asks him if he has time to be daydreaming. Tianmo turns to him, grabbing his shoulders, and says he had no idea Li Hong had also been reborn. Li Hong is confused and asks what Tianmo is talking about. He tells Tianmo to stop joking around because he is a top student and shouldn't be acting so weird. Tianmo realizes that Li Hong's look and personality are exactly the same as in his previous life, suggesting that his relationships and surroundings haven't changed. Li Hong grabs Tianmo and admits he is incredibly nervous because his entire future depends on the results of the awakening. He worries that if he fails the exam, his father will be furious. Tianmo recalls that in the game, the special Genesis talent awakens after touching a stone in the Secret Kingdom. Li Hong asks Tianmo for help. Noting that Tianmo is one of the best in the class, Tianmo asks Li Hong to be specific about what he needs. Li Hong smiles and says it isn't a huge request. He just wants to awaken a talent good enough to make his father proud. Tianmo looks at his hand and considers that while the game and reality seem similar, he needs to see for himself how things actually work in this version of the world. Li Hong asks if he has any ideas, and Tianmo tells him not to worry. Tianmo says he plans to head to the Secret Kingdom first to figure things out. He waves goodbye, and Li Hong promises to treat him to lunch for a year if things go well. Later, the students gather in a training hall. Someone suggests dealing with the smaller enemies first, but a girl argues that it would take too much effort. Another student suggests letting others help with the more powerful elite creatures. Tianmo spots a portal and realizes it is the entrance. He steps forward, eager to see if reality matches the game mechanics. A bright light surrounds Tianmo, and he looks ahead in amazement. He wonders if this is a new type of Genesis village. Suddenly, a voice informs him that a system has found its owner. It begins binding him to something called the transformation system. Once the process hits 100%, Tianmo is shocked to learn he now possesses the first level transformation system. This allows him to turn active abilities into passive ones, with their power scaling based on his own attributes. Tianmo grins, realizing how powerful this system could be. He notes that most skills in this world are active and have many limitations, making them hard to use constantly. As a monster approaches, Tianmo explains that passive skills have no such limits and can be used all the time. He believes this rare treasure will help him succeed where he failed in his past life. A menu appears, asking him to choose a skill to transform. Tianmo selects a sword skill called Wave Cut. Normally, this allows a person to send out a shockwave to hit enemies within 3 meters. However, the system successfully transforms it into a passive skill. Now, there is a 30% chance the shockwave will trigger automatically during any regular attack, dealing 50% more damage and making his body invulnerable for a fraction of a second. Tianmo realizes this significantly boosts his combat power. Suddenly, a level 3 Minotaur appears behind him. Tianmo knows this creature is a serious threat on the training grounds, but he decides it is the perfect time to test his new ability. The Minotaur swings at him, and Tianmo counterattacks. A massive explosion follows, but the monster seems unharmed. As the Minotaur charges with an axe, Tianmo dodges and realizes that since he is only level 1, he won't be able to defeat the creature instantly. As the battle intensifies, Tianmo manages to block another heavy strike, but his sword shatters under the pressure. At that exact moment, a notification pops up stating that his passive wave cut and his brief invulnerability have been activated. Tianmo looks down in total surprise, realizing the passive skill just saved him. Tianmo watches as his power increases by 50% and immediately drops into a crouch. He triggers his passive wave cut skill, sending the monster flying backward with enough force to knock out its teeth. As an explosion echoes in the distance, Tianmo looks at the defeated creature and smiles. He realizes that converting the skill to a passive didn't just expand his range, it significantly boosted his attack power. He feels confident that his goal of reaching the top is now within reach and vows that in this life, he will truly become a legend. Moving through the area, Tianmo quickly clears out a group of monsters, leaving a pile of remains in his wake. He reflects on how the hours spent practicing were worth it to regain his old rhythm. His next task is to locate the exact exam site so he can ensure Li Hong succeeds. The system prompts Tianmo to select a second skill for transformation. He considers how most beginners fail due to low damage and long wait times between abilities. Since his first skill focused on offense, he decided his second should focus on efficiency. He selects weapon change, which normally reduces swap time by 30% for a short duration. Once transformed into a passive, the 30% speed bonus becomes permanent. Tianmo checks his gear and notes that with his collection of basic weapons, he can now cycle through them much faster. Tianmo reviews his current status. He is at level 0 with balanced stats, 20% strength for physical power, 20% agility for speed and evasion, 20% spirit for magical potential, and 20% constitution for health and endurance. With his 2 passive skills active, his combat power is rated at 500. Feeling fully prepared, he waits for the exam to begin. On the day of the exam, the atmosphere is busy. Li Hong tells Tianmo that he had his father use his wealth to secure a map of the area. Tianmo warns him to keep it down, so others don't overhear their advantage. Li Hong explains that the professor chose a difficult secret kingdom called the Flaming Rift for the test, which has high standards for the students. Tianmo studies the map and realizes they will be facing monsters ranging from level 3 to level 10, which will require significant effort. When Tianmo asks Li Hong what level he can handle, Li Hong admits his limit is likely level 5. Tianmo realizes Li Hong is a bit weaker than he expected but tells him to just stay close. A rival student named Mao Feng approaches and mocks Li Hong, asking why he didn't just skip the exam instead of embarrassing his family. Tianmo steps in to calm Li Hong down, but Mao Feng continues to insult them, calling Tianmo trash who can only rely on others. As Mao Feng tries to walk away, Tianmo trips him, causing him to fall. Mao Feng is furious and tries to strike Tianmo, but Tianmo easily catches his fist. Surprised by Tianmo's strength, Mao Feng listens as Tianmo offers a bet. He claims Li Hong will perform much better in the exam than Mao Feng will. Mao Feng laughs, thinking he has a guaranteed win, and agrees to the stakes. The loser must run 10 laps around the court without clothes while shouting the winner's name. The surrounding students think Tianmo is crazy, believing the gap between Li Hong and Mao Feng is too large to overcome. Li Hong is panicked, asking Tianmo why he would gamble with his reputation like that. Tianmo pulls him aside and whispers a secret strategy regarding the map. After hearing the plan, Li Hong's fear turns to excitement, and he starts shouting that Mao Feng will be the one running laps by the end of the day. The examiner, Zhang Lei, announces the start of the exam and directs the students into the teleportation portal one by one. Tianmo steps through and finds himself in the Flaming Rift, a world of volcanic heat and bubbling magma filled with orcs and demons. The goal is to pass various trials to reach the boss at the summit. Tianmo enjoys the familiar thrill of the environment. Suddenly, he is surrounded by level 2 flaming blade orcs. Unlike the training simulations, these monsters are aggressive and move in coordination. Tianmo realizes that while he used to rely on a mouse and keyboard, he now has to trust his physical reflexes. The system detects his extensive past experience and begins converting it into physical instincts. Tianmo feels a strange sensation in his body as his muscles align with his tactical knowledge. When the orcs rush him, he leaps into the air with perfect control. He realizes he can now command every muscle in his body as naturally as he did in the game. He taunts the monsters to attack and uses a series of somersaults and slides to lead them into a cluster. Sensing his opening, Tianmo uses his slide skill to get into position and unleashes a passive wave cut. The attack is incredibly fast and powerful, devastating the group of monsters. Tianmo continues through the rift, receiving notifications that he has gained experience points and jumped to level 3. He earns several attribute points to distribute and feels motivated by how much more interesting this reality is compared to his previous life. The leaderboard flickers to life, and a student points at it in shock, telling everyone to look at how much things have changed. Tianmo's name has suddenly shot to the very top. Another student notes that the guy who stood up to Mao Feng managed to hit level 3 in under a minute, taking the lead. The crowd is buzzing, realizing they might have a hidden genius at the academy, while Zhang Lei folds his arms and watches with interest, curious to see what else Tianmo has in store. Back in the Flaming Rift, Tianmo leaps from a ridge and lands smoothly. He spots a level 2 warlock accompanied by a hunting hound. Tianmo recalls a specific mechanic from the game. To defeat these pairs efficiently, You don't just pick them off one by one, you have to exploit a specific behavior. He pulls out a firearm, confident that this will be a simple task. Tianmo uses a grappling hook to pull himself up to a higher vantage point. From above, he targets a warlock with a shuriken, instantly drawing its attention. The warlock enters a combat state and retaliates with a shadow arrow. Tianmo knows that at this low rank, the warlock only has 2 moves, shadow arrow and summoning a hound. Tianmo quickly ducks behind a rock and vanishes from the monster's line of sight. Since the warlock can no longer see its target, it can't launch a direct attack. Tianmo grins as he begins the second part of his plan. He finishes off the hunting dog, knowing this triggers a bug in the warlock's AI. Because the warlock can't see Tianmo but knows its hound is gone, it begins to panic and summons a new one immediately. Tianmo watches as the cycle continues. The warlock drains its magic to keep summoning hounds in a chaotic loop. Tianmo realizes that as soon as he eventually finishes the warlock, all the summoned hounds will count as successes, granting him a massive wave of experience points. Until then, he decides to settle in for a nap and wait for the numbers to climb. 8 hours pass and the leaderboard shifts again. Li Hong points out that a top student named Luo Jing has just used her skills to climb to level 10, briefly taking the first place spot. Another student shouts that Sunke has also reached a high level, and people wonder if he will be the first to reach the boss and the awakening stone. Zhang Lei watches the rankings, noting that the star students are finally making their move, but he wonders what happened to Tianmo. Tianmo's name has plummeted to 659th place. One student laughs, saying he started strong, but completely fizzled out. Another wonders how a supposed genius could fail so badly. Zhang Lei checks the timer. There are only 4 hours left in the exam. At Tianmo's current speed, he won't even reach level 6, let alone defeat the final boss to unlock a talent. Suddenly, a student shouts for everyone to look at the board again because the scores are moving. Zhang Lei's eyes widened in disbelief. Just moments earlier, Tianmo had woken up from his nap and stretched, looking down at a swarm of nearly 400 hounds that the warlock had summoned while he slept. Tianmo pulls out a machine gun and smiles, ready to see how many levels he can gain in one go. He declares that the hunt is on and opens fire. The warlock and its massive pack are wiped out in an instant. Notifications flood Tianmo's vision, congratulating him on his rapid growth. He admits that such a fast jump in progress is a bit tiring but very satisfying. The system informs him that his passive skills have leveled up. Level 2 Wave Cut now has a 35% chance to trigger, dealing significantly more damage and granting him invulnerability for 0.3 seconds. Level 2 Weapon Change now reduces his reload and swap time by 40%. Tianmo is impressed to see that his passive abilities grow stronger as he levels up, and he wonders if he can unlock even more passive soon. Back at the academy, the leaderboard updates. Tianmo is back in the number 1 spot. The students are stunned, whispering about how someone could possibly jump 10 levels in a single minute. They realize that with a level 13 ranking, Tianmo isn't just the best in the school. He's likely in the top 3 in the entire country. One of the teachers clenches his fist and proudly tells everyone to look at his student, asking if he isn't the coolest one there. However, he turns to the principal and asks what is going on, as the principal is furious. The principal shouts that the behavior is completely out of line and the student should have been warned about his choices. The teacher quickly lowers his head and apologizes for the situation. Watching from the side, Zhang Lei admits that he might be getting old since he's so easily impressed, but he notes that Tianmo is clearly the most talented student in the entire region. Inside the dimension, Tianmo receives a notification congratulating him on reaching level 13. Since he has passed level 10, the system prompts him to choose a specialization. Tianmo stamps his foot as the menu appears, reflecting on his past life where he reached the top and nearly became invincible. He decides to choose a path he never tried before, the freedom-loving specialization. He explains that this choice doesn't change much initially, but offers a unique advantage. A diagram appears, showing that the freedom-loving class can use any attributes without restrictions. This means he can wear any equipment and switch gear whenever he likes. However, Tianmo acknowledges the downside. The class typically suffers from low damage and becomes difficult to manage in later stages because the skills are too broad and lack focus. But Tianmo smiles, confident that his transformation system will easily compensate for the weak damage. As he confirms his choice, the system processes the request. Suddenly, instead of a standard assignment, a hidden specialization is revealed, the Sorcerer. Back at the academy, the leaderboard updates to show Tianmo in first place at level 13 with the freedom-loving specialization. The crowd is in an uproar. One person shouts that there must be something wrong with Tianmo's vision because that class has zero potential for high-level talent. The director is outraged, questioning what the teachers are even showing the children. Another official nervously mentions that while previous top students chose the warrior path, Tianmo's choice is essentially throwing away a bright future. Tianmo doesn't mind the criticism. freedom. He stretches and notes that the biggest perk of be freedom-loving is the unlimited weapon choice, allowing him to create complex combinations and adapt to any enemy. He knows people think the class fails in the mid to late game due to low damage, but he plans to use his past experience and his system to turn it into something legendary. He takes a closer look at his hidden sorcerer specialization. He learns that he cannot learn standard skills from schools. He can only learn abilities dropped by bosses. In exchange, every time he learns a skill, he gets extra attribute points, making him naturally stronger over time. Qianmo is thrilled, realizing this is a massive advantage in this world. He immediately uses his points to boost his attack speed and critical hit frequency, noting how much easier combat becomes when your physical stats are optimized. As he moves through the rift, a monster drops a rare item, the Book of Demons. Qianmo picks it up, realizing it's a key to hidden missions. He decides not to rush the final boss just yet, focusing instead on gathering more rare attributes. The exam timer shows only 60 minutes remaining. Students are finally approaching the summit where the final boss guards the Awakening Stone. Only by defeating this monster can they touch the stone and officially finish the exam. One student rushes forward to attack the boss, but the monster triggers a sacrifice technique, dealing continuous damage to everyone nearby. It also releases the Curse of the Ancestor, which randomly weakens the attackers. The student tries to rely on his speed to push through, but the boss is too powerful. He is sent flying back, hitting the ground hard and wheezing in pain, wondering how a monster could be this strong. The final boss glares at the challenger with fury. Overwhelmed, the student realizes he stands no chance and is forced to retreat. Back in the examination hall, he stumbles out of the portal, leaving the other students in shock. They whisper among themselves, wondering how someone ranked in the top 50 could lose so easily. Rumors spread about the difficulty of this year's exam. In previous years, the boss was only level 10, but now it seems students might need to form teams to stand a chance. Some explain that the boss is a glass cannon, terrifying at a distance but vulnerable in close combat. The real challenge is getting past the two powerful orcs guarding him. Many wonder why the committee reopened this specific secret kingdom, given its reputation for extreme complexity. Meanwhile, Qianmo finishes gathering the 6 rare items needed to trigger the hidden mission. He arrives at the boss's chamber just in time. As the guards rush him, Qianmo notes their speed but remains calm. He drops low, dodges their initial strike, and delivers a powerful sweep with his sword. With the orcs momentarily distracted, Qianmo realizes the boss is defenseless. He leaps toward the primary target, using a machine gun to unleash a hail of bullets. Though he empties the magazine, the boss remains standing. Entering a state of total rage, Qianmo quickly switches weapons, praising the efficiency of his weapon change skill. He focuses his attacks on the monster's legs, shattering them until the boss falls to the ground. Qianmo explains the boss's fatal flaw. While casting powerful spells, he cannot move or defend himself. Once his guards are out of the way, he is completely vulnerable. Qianmo strikes the final blow, finishing the boss easily. Outside, the exit portal hums. Luo Jing emerges, confident that she has secured the top spot. However, her teammate points out that her name isn't at the top of the leaderboard. Luo Jing is stunned to see that she's been beaten by Li Hong, a student who doesn't even have a specialization and hasn't reached level 10. She and Sunke suspect foul play, believing someone from an ordinary class must have cheated to achieve such a result. Li Hong is soon called into the academic affairs office to face Lu Yanmin, who is furious. Yanmin accuses him of lying about his performance and threatens to expel him from Zhang Academy unless he reveals who helped him. Terrified, Li Hong falls to his knees and admits he asked Qianmo for help. Qianmo's plan for Li Hong had been simple. He gave Li Hong a map with a specific path that allowed him to bypass every monster and walk straight to the final chamber while staying out of sight. All Li Hong had to do was touch the Awakening Stone while Qianmo kept the boss busy. Yanmin is stunned to hear Qianmo's name again. He asks for Qianmo's academic records and discovers that not only did Qianmo reach level 13, but he also set a new record for the fastest progression. After watching the video of Qianmo's combat, Yanmin's anger turns to excitement, realizing Qianmo has a legendary future ahead of him. Back at the rift, there are only 15 minutes left in the exam. Students outside assume Qianmo has failed since he hasn't exited yet, but Qianmo is in no rush to leave. He stands before the Awakening Stone but decides to finish his hidden task first. He lays out the 6 attributes he collected: the Book of Demons, fiery obsidian, dead wood, a transparent crystal, a broken sword, and the skull of a demonic dog. He begins the summoning ritual, and purple light fills the chamber. A booming voice demands to know who dared to wake him. The secret boss, a level 12 elite named Taemin, emerges from the magma. He slams his sword into the ground, causing the earth to crack and lava to erupt everywhere. Qianmo watches the destruction, noting that Taemin is far more powerful than the previous boss. He analyzes the situation, realizing that while Taemin has incredible power, he lacks flexibility. Qianmo grins, ready for the ultimate challenge, and tells the boss it's time to play. The boss stares ahead with pure fury before suddenly charging. The massive creature leaps into the air, shouting that he is going to finish the hero. Qianmo remains calm, reaching behind his back and throwing a handful of sand directly into the monster's face. The sand throwing skill works perfectly, blinding the boss and slowing him down for 3 seconds. Qianmo knows that while the move is simple, it's the best way to distract a powerful enemy. The boss's passive triggers, causing him to lose control for a moment. Qianmo realizes he's dealing with a true hidden boss, but he knows it's his turn to take control. He slides across the ground to find a better angle. He knows the monster's defense is high, so he needs to make every strike count. He lands a solid punch, catching the boss off guard. Qianmo grabs the monster and triggers his dagger passive for a quick backstab, followed by a powerful frontal kick. The boss accidentally stumbles right into a grenade Qianmo had planted. A massive explosion rocks the area, leaving the monster wheezing on the ground. Qianmo doesn't give him a chance to recover. He throws a series of blades that pin the monster's hands to the earth. Standing over him, Qianmo points his machine gun and says a final goodbye to the creature. Back at the academy, the leaderboard updates again. The students cheer and shout in disbelief. Qianmo has hit level 14 and secured first place. Some are suspicious, demanding an explanation for how he's growing so fast while still inside the kingdom. One official notes that everyone will be automatically teleported out once the timer hits 0, and then they can get answers. Yanmin, however, looks at the skeptical crowd and calls them ignorant. Zhang Lei notices that Yanmin hasn't been this excited about a student in years. It's clear he truly believes in Qianmo's potential. With only 59 seconds left, Qianmo slings his weapon over his shoulder. Having cleared every monster in the secret kingdom, he receives a massive reward, a 50% strength boost and a 200% experience bonus for defeating the boss. The total experience gain exceeds 3 million points. The system congratulates Qianmo on reaching level 14. He admits that the secret mission took quite a bit of time, but he's pleased with his new rank. He turns to the Awakening Stone, wondering what it will grant him. As he touches the surface, lightning crackles through the air, and purple rays surround him. His transformation system upgrades to level 2. He now has more slots for passive skills and transformations. For defeating the boss, he also receives the Book of Demons, which boosts his critical hit speed by 20. Qianmo looks over his new options and decides on his next transformations. He turns the Gatling gun skill into a passive. Now, whenever he uses a firearm, his attack power increases by 25%, and there is a chance he will fire 10 perfectly accurate bullets at once. He grins, knowing this will allow him to wipe out groups of monsters effortlessly. He explains that when fighting higher-ranked enemies, a player's stats are usually suppressed, making it easy to get overwhelmed. However, with these passive skills, he can ignore those limitations and keep fighting effectively. Next, he chooses to transform the knocking down skill. This passive now gives him a 10% chance to trigger a shockwave with every normal hit, damaging everything within 2 meters. He notes that this is much more energy efficient than other high-level skills, while still offering great crowd control. Qianmo asks the system to show his final stats. He sees that his combat power is nearing 10,000. He realizes that once he reaches that milestone, he can head to the center of the conflict on the main continent, where the real challenge begins. The portal begins to glow intensely as the secret kingdom prepares to close. Outside, students shield their eyes from the blinding light, wondering what is happening. Suddenly, Qianmo steps through the portal, looking relaxed with his hands behind his head. The crowd whispers his name in awe. Yanmin watches him, convinced that the young man before him has a future without limits. Luo Jing looks at Qianmo, wonders why he isn't excited about his victory, while other students shout that he must be a cheater. They demand he be disqualified along with Li Hong, insisting that his results be cancelled. Yanmin suddenly stamps his foot, and a heavy silence falls over the hall. The students quickly cover their mouths in fear. Standing behind Qianmo, Yanmin asks him directly if he truly passed the test on his own. Qianmo turns around and calmly confirms that he did. Yanmin grabs Qianmo by the shoulders and declares that he is #1 with an unlimited future. Still, the students are skeptical. They don't understand why Qianmo was the last one to leave the secret kingdom if he was the strongest. The crowd continues to demand evidence, shouting that he should be excluded. Yanmin loses his temper and explains that Qianmo single-handedly took down the secret boss. He notes that although Qianmo was only level 12 at the time, he defeated more monsters than everyone else combined. Yanmin tells the crowd that if Qianmo doesn't take the lead, a group like them never will. Luo Jing and Sunki are stunned, saying they've never even heard of a secret boss. They suspect Qianmo used some kind of deception. A teacher named Xue Qin, the youngest class teacher of the rocket class, approaches and asks Qianmo to explain how he managed to summon the hidden boss. Qianmo looks away and asks why he should have to explain anything to her. The students are horrified by his tone, noting that Xue Qin is a prestigious teacher and Qianmo is being incredibly disrespectful. Sunke, the class headman, pulls out his sword and challenges Qianmo to a duel, wanting to teach him a lesson and get him expelled. Qianmo looks Sunke in the eye and asks if he's truly worthy of fighting him. This arrogance sends the students into a frenzy. Luo Jing steps up and offers to join forces with Sunke so they can be worthy of him. Qianmo asks who she is and she furiously shouts that she is the most beautiful girl in the academy. Qianmo simply replies that he's never heard of her. Sunke reaches his breaking point. He tells Qianmo that if he doesn't stop acting so inappropriately toward the rocket class, he will be forced to kill him in a duel to the death. Xu Qin realizes the duel is inevitable and believes Qianmo will lose since he can't possibly stand up to Sunke's skill. Qianmo shrugs and says that since Sunke is in such a hurry to move on to the next world, he will gladly escort him there. Yanmin, curious to see Qianmo's true power, sets the stage for the battle. A massive combat cube drops into the stadium. Yanmin warns Sunke not to regret this, and Qianmo says he's tired of wasting time. Qianmo leaps into the air as the duel begins. Sunke rushes forward using his extreme speed talent, which boosts his movement and attack speed by 50. The crowd is impressed, noting that Sunke has mastered the swordsman's signature shape-shifting techniques. They can barely follow his movements and assume Qianmo is finished. Suddenly, Sunke appears behind Qianmo and swings his sword, shouting for him to die. Qianmo jumps out of the way effortlessly and asks if that's all he's got. The spectators are confused, wondering how Qianmo dodged an attack of that speed. They speculate if he has hidden agility stats. Frowning, Sunke prepares a combo attack, promising Qianmo won't dodge again. Qianmo uses his knockdown skill and slides across the ground. Sunke counters with a charge skill, but Qianmo jumps high into the air. Sunke quickly uses shape and shadow change to track him, and triggers attack reflection. A massive explosion thunders through the stadium as the two powers collide. The crowd watches in awe, believing Sunke has delivered a lethal blow. Luo Jing cheers, calling it an excellent strike. Sunke grins, holding his blade and boasting that no one has ever been able to keep up with his speed. But before he can even finish his sentence, Qianmo's foot connects solidly with his face. The audience is stunned. They didn't even see Qianmo move. Qianmo's eyes glow as a passive skill activates. He swings his sword, triggering the wave cut ability. The force of the strike sends Sunke crashing into the ground. Looking at his weapon, Qianmo calmly observes that Sunke's extreme speed is actually quite amateur. The crowd can't believe their eyes. Luo Jing is paralyzed with shock, realizing that Sunke, one of the Academy's greatest geniuses, was finished in less than 30 seconds. The sheer power Qianmo displayed is overwhelming. Qianmo turns to Luo Jing and asks if she still wants to challenge him. She quickly shakes her head, admitting that she isn't worthy of fighting him. Qianmo puts his hands in his pockets as the atmosphere in the stadium shifts instantly. The students who were just mocking him are now apologizing and cheering, calling him a true legend and the Academy's greatest genius. Some girls even start wondering aloud if he has a girlfriend. Watching from the side, Luo Jing finds herself drawn to him, wondering why she suddenly feels such a strong urge to get closer to him. Yanmin watches with a frown, deeply impressed by Qianmo's reaction time and his perfect execution of skills. He realizes Qianmo might be better than he ever was and could even become a new legend of the 5 circles. He is determined to keep such a talented student at the Academy. Yanmin makes a formal announcement on behalf of the school. He places a hand on Qianmo's shoulder and declares that because of his outstanding performance, Qianmo is being awarded 1 million coins and the prestigious title of student leader. The students are floored. They whisper about how the city hasn't seen a student leader in over 20 years. Most high-ranking officials only have 2 or 3 circles of prestige, while the last leader had 4. They wonder why such a massive honor is being given to Qianmo so early. Teacher Shuai-Chin realizes that Qianmo has the potential to reach 4 circles in the future. She thinks that if she can get him into her class, her own reputation will skyrocket. She steps forward and asks Qianmo if he'd like to transfer to the rocket class as the class monitor, offering to personally train him for a month before the next big exam. The other students are jealous, calling her a goddess and saying they would give anything for such an offer. Qianmo looks at her and flatly refuses, stating that he doesn't need to be taught. He raises his hand and adds that it's not just her. No one at the Academy is qualified to teach him, especially given his unique, freedom-loving path. Qianmo is a level 14 spellcaster with 9,972 combat power, extremely high agility, an SSS rank reincarnation talent, and multiple passive combat skills. He also checks his new level 8 running shoes. This cloth armor provides 20 armor points and a strength boost. Most importantly, it allows him to trigger a massive 200% speed increase for movement or swimming for 5 seconds. Yanmin tells Shuai-Chin that she wouldn't be able to teach Qianmo anyway. He explains that since Qianmo has a unique hidden specialization, the Academy doesn't have the specific skills or experience to guide him. The professors agree that from this point on, Qianmo is on a path where he must study and grow on his own. Yanmin stands beside Qianmo, warning him that the path of a freedom-spirited warrior is incredibly difficult and that he might regret the choice later. Qianmo calmly replies that he knows what he's doing, and this is the path he wants. Seeing his determination, Yanmin grants him permission for independent study, hoping Qianmo will truly shine during the upcoming Unified Exam. The Unified Exam is a massive national event where the best awakened talents from across the country compete for elite resources and rewards. The other students are baffled that Qianmo is the only one choosing to train alone, finding his confidence almost unbelievable. Meanwhile, Qianmo simply smiles and asks the teacher when his massive reward of 1 million coins will be deposited. News of the level 14 genius spreads quickly. Reporters and officials pester the Academy, wanting to know Qianmo's plans and why he chose such an unconventional specialization. Ignoring the noise, Qianmo heads to the Management Association to finalize his entry into the Genesis system. History records that a century ago, beasts from the Oblivion descended upon the Blue Star, leaving destruction in their wake before retreating. To fight back, humanity discovered the Genesis, cracks leading into the Oblivion. This turned into a global battlefield where experts now train to protect the world. For Qianmo, the current goal is to reach level 20 to dominate the Unified Exam. He heads to the Broken Islands, a zone meant for levels 13 to to 18, which feels very familiar to him from his past life. At the islands, Qianmo watches groups of fighters teaming up to clear monsters. He knows that while they rely on numbers, he has the specialized knowledge to find hidden advantages. He decides to ignore the common mobs and focuses on a hidden quest that provides the most points and a legendary starter artifact. He arrives at a dilapidated village and finds a discarded note. It mentions a fisherman who saw a strange, massive shadow in the water that no one else believed. Qianmo realizes this is the secret task he was looking for, one that requires high experience but offers a massive payout. He reaches Aran Beach, where students are fighting mutated turtles. A group from the prestigious Demon Academy is bullying others, using high-level fire spells to scare people off. They arrogantly claim the entire beach is their private territory. A student named Huang tries to protest, saying it's a public area, but the bullies threaten him, laughing about how they've already forced the other students to fall 3 levels behind by stealing all the kills. Qianmo watches as 2 mages from the Demon Academy prepare a massive attack to wipe out all the local monsters at once. They know the first strike rule: whoever deals the most initial damage gets ownership of the kill and all the experience. Qianmo realizes the other students haven't figured out the counter mechanic yet. He calculates that if his damage output is 3 times higher than the mages, he can hijack the experience points. The trick is to drain the monster's health rapidly without drawing their aggro or hatred, so he doesn't get swarmed and finished off. As a master of close combat with limited range, he has to be incredibly precise. The bullies, led by a guy named Ding Hong, smile as they prepare a massive snowstorm spell with a freezing effect, thinking they've secured every monster on the beach. They ignore the warning that dying in Genesis leads to level reduction, and repeated losses can even take away the ability to be resurrected. Care about their threats. He's already in motion, ready to show them who the real owner of the beach is. The bullies smile at Qianmo, asking if he has a death wish. They are certain he won't survive an attack from 2 high-level mages. However, as the snowstorm settles, the team is shocked to see Qianmo standing completely unharmed. They can't wrap their heads around how he survived a spell that should have finished off anyone at his level. Ding Hong furiously orders his team to ramp up the storm, but Qianmo just calmly mentions that he's already triggered his passive wave cut and is simply using their own storm to slow things down. Qianmo decides it's time to end the games and activates his passive Gatling gun. The system confirms the transformation is successful. The bullies are stunned. Usually, a skill like that has a very short duration, yet Qianmo seems to be using it without any cooldown. While they stand there confused, Qianmo efficiently sweeps up all the loot. He laughs to himself, noting that the machine gun damage is even better than he expected. As magic flares and mutated turtles scramble across the beach, Qianmo happily collects several rare turtle tails. Ding Hong is livid, shouting that they've been robbed and promising Qianmo will pay for this. His teammates start panicking, warning him that it's a bad idea to start a feud on the Genesis continent. Zhao Yan'er, sensing Qianmo's overwhelming strength, begs Ding Hong to back off. Ding Hong tries to save face by telling Qianmo they'll be back for revenge, but Qianmo stops them in their tracks, telling them he hasn't given them permission to leave yet. Ding Hong quickly changes his tune, nervously claiming he realized his mistake and won't attack again. Qianmo isn't interested in apologies. He gives them exactly 1 minute to hand over everything they've gathered, or he'll force them to restart their levels from scratch. One of the bullies tries to act tough, claiming he'd rather die than surrender. Wang, watching from the side, is confused by the standoff. The bullies think Qianmo is frozen in fear, but Qianmo just lihongles at their delusion. A fireball is launched at Qianmo, but he instantly switches to his combat gloves. He uses his boxing dodge skill to weave through the flames, his hands glowing with explosive energy. With a series of lightning-fast kicks, he sends the bullies flying. Wang watches in awe, barely able to process what just happened. Qianmo suddenly appears behind Ding Hong, demanding not just their items, but every Genesis coin they have. Zhao Yan'er screams in terror, offering Qianmo everything they own. Ding Hong, now completely broken, holds out a bag of loot and begs Qianmo to take it. Qianmo takes the bag and tells them to get lost. Wang laughs, amazed that an ordinary student could dominate the Demon Academy elite so easily. He and the others suggest forming a team with Qianmo as their captain. Qianmo just smiles. He knows that in the world of Genesis, strength is the only law that matters. However, he prefers to work alone so no one slows down his attribute farming. He checks his progress and realizes he still needs 239 more turtle tails. It's going to be a long, boring day. The next day, Qianmo is lying on the ground, exhausted. The secret mission is a massive grind, but he's pleased to see his agility has finally surpassed 100%. He knows most freshmen won't see a stat like that for a long time. Meanwhile, back at the Demon Academy, Ding Hong is berating his team for their failure. Zhao Yan'er mentions she found someone who can deal with Qianmo. She explains that a group of 30 top students is ready to help, including a legendary freshman named Yunfei. who managed to reach level 21 in just 1 year. Leon is skeptical, noting that Yunfei is famous for being a loner who doesn't take orders from anyone. To prove his point, Ding Hong tracks Yunfei down. He finds him practicing his fireball technique, the air thick with heat. Qianmo's rival looks at the group with a grin and asks what they want. Ding Hong tries to pitch a plan to take down Qianmo, but Yunfei isn't interested. When Ding Hong tries to keep talking, Yunfei bluntly tells him he doesn't need help from anyone and tells them to leave. Ding Hong and Zhao Yener plead with Yunfei, telling him they want to teach a lesson to a scoundrel who cruelly mocked them. Yunfei initially dismisses them, scratching his head and telling them to get out of his way. However, when Ding Hong mentions that the target is a freedom-loving specialist, Yunfei stops in his tracks. A predatory smile spreads across his face. He admits that he finds people with that specialization to be complete scum, and the idea of a challenge is finally tempting. He's glad to have found a worthy opponent. Qianmo heads to a local fishing store, looking for the best gear available. He knows that while collecting those turtle tails was the first step, he now needs top-tier equipment to finish the job. He decides to use his recent winnings to fund the purchase. The shopkeeper points him toward the price list, but Qianmo, keeping his back turned, explains that successful fishing depends entirely on the quality of the rod and gear. He admits he could use a little expert guidance. Qianmo specifically asks for an exquisite rod made of purple bamboo and Daphnia tendon. The seller is stunned that a customer knows enough to ask for such high-end materials. He quickly fetches the rod, realizing Qianmo has the knowledge of a veteran fisherman. He wonders how someone so young could have such extensive expertise, but Qianmo just smiles and calls it a hobby. The seller, impressed, gives him a discount, letting him take the rod for just 10 gold coins, and tells Qianmo he'll buy whatever he manages to catch. Out by the sea, Qianmo watches other players fighting monsters. He has his gear and his tails, but he knows there's one more piece to the puzzle. He remembers from his past life that a specific boss appears every 72 hours on a nearby island. Even though the island is close to the beginner area, no normal newbie could handle it. Qianmo needs a specific drop from this boss that will allow him to breathe underwater indefinitely. He knows this is the key to solving the vanishing shadow mystery. Nearby players watch in confusion as someone suddenly dives into the ocean. In the world of Genesis, the limit for staying underwater is usually only 2 minutes. Exceeding that time causes rapid health loss, and death follows within seconds. The onlookers are amazed that a newcomer would take such a risky gamble, noting that fighting underwater is exponentially more difficult. Qianmo avoids the crowds and heads to a small, isolated spot in the middle of the broken islands. He takes 10 minutes to scout the area until he finds a group of statues hidden in the forest. As he steps onto the ground, a jelly-like substance begins to thicken beneath his feet. Qianmo smiles, realizing he's in luck. An extra mutant monster has spawned in the area. He engages the creature, noting that it's been a long time since he's faced one. He uses fire to blast through its defenses, sending sticky goo flying everywhere. The monster grows in size, and Qianmo is careful to avoid the slime. He knows that getting hit will slow his movement by 30%, and the effect stacks. Qianmo switches his weapon to a long blade and triggers a rapid series of attacks. His passive wave cut skill activates, quickly draining the mutant's strength. The monster screams, releasing a cloud of radiation that drains health every second. Qianmo doesn't let up, switching to a ranged weapon and firing relentlessly until a final explosion clears the area. He lands smoothly, knowing the fight is over. Among the rubble, he finds the staff of Watervine. He's thrilled, knowing this is exactly what he needed. With the staff in hand, he can finally go after the vanishing shadow. He prepares himself for the fierce battle ahead. As night falls, Qianmo realizes he's been being followed since the previous evening. However, thanks to the staff of Watervine, he can stay underwater as long as he wants. His pursuers are frustrated, shouting that they can't keep up the search. They worry that a monster might have already finished Qianmo off, which would mean they've wasted their time. Disappointed, they report back to their leader that Qianmo has completely slipped away from them. Qianmo finds a quiet fishing spot on the broken islands and prepares his gear. He's ready to begin the final phase of catching the vanishing shadow, but he notices a stranger has already claimed the best spot on the shore. Qianmo tries to check the man's stats, but the information window is blank. His eyes widen as he realizes the only reason he can't see the man's level is that the gap in their strength is massive. The stranger looks back and casually asks if Qianmo also came to fish, offering him a nearby spot. He tells Qianmo that while he appreciates the young man's caution, he could easily finish him off right now if he wanted to. He encourages Qianmo to go ahead and start fishing if that's what he came for. Qianmo sits down, planning to wait for the man to leave before starting his secret mission. He casts his line, and the stranger watches him, thinking that the kid is either very brave or very reckless. After just 2 minutes, Qianmo pulls in a fish weighing 8 kilograms. He's pleased, noting that his maxed out fishing skill from his past life is paying off. The stranger grins, impressed by the catch. Qianmo casts again, and within a minute, he He pulls in a red koi weighing 9.5 kilograms. 2 minutes later, he landed another over 8 kilograms. The stranger is indignant. He's been sitting there for half a day without a single bite and can't understand how Qianmo is doing it. Notifications congratulate Qianmo on his rapid success. The stranger puts a hand on his hip and calls Qianmo a wizard, asking for a few tips. Qianmo folds his arms, noting that even though the man has likely been here for years, he hasn't mastered the rhythm. He politely suggests that the man needs to pick a better bait. The stranger laughs, amazed that someone so young knows so much about the craft. His expression suddenly turns serious. He mentions that he's noticed Qianmo is skilled in more than just fishing and decides to test him. Qianmo shudders as red energy begins to swirl around the man's hand. Qianmo instantly pulls out his machine gun. The man stops and asks why Qianmo chose the freedom-loving specialization. Qianmo rests the gun on his shoulder and simply says he prefers to walk his own path. The warrior stands up, acknowledging that with Qianmo's talent, he has a bright future. He offers to take Qianmo on as his student, but Qianmo thanks him and declines, explaining that he wants to progress on his own. The man doesn't force the issue and throws Qianmo a ring. He tells Qianmo the doors to the association are always open, and he can use the ring if he ever needs help. Qianmo is a bit embarrassed, asking why he's being given such a valuable gift. Meanwhile, a surveillance team tracks Qianmo's coordinates and reports back to their leader that he's currently fishing. They announce that the group will arrive at his location in 10 minutes. Ding Hong leads a team from the Demon Academy through the crowd. Onlookers are shocked to see such a high-level group together, especially since Yunfei, the top-ranked first-year loner, is leading them. People wonder if they are going after a massive boss. Ding Hong is confident that Qianmo won't survive the day he tells Yunfei they are counting on him, but Yunfei privately decides to wait and see if Qianmo is actually as strong as Ding Hong claims before he steps in. Back at the City Management Association, Chief Wu receives a report that Ding Hong has entered the Genesis continent with a group of 20 people. He senses trouble and orders his staff to follow them and report back immediately. He sighs, frustrated that Qianmo always seems to be at the center of some kind of chaos, and prays that nothing catastrophic happens today. Qianmo continues his task, now having 39 turtle tails. He's certain that 400 is the magic number required to finish the mission. Just then, Ding Hong and his team appear behind him. Ding Hong taunts Qianmo, telling him it's been a while and that his peaceful fishing trip is officially over. Qianmo grins as he looks at the group, mockingly asking if these are the same cowards from before. He scoffs at the idea that they couldn't handle their own problems and had to run for help, calling the Demon Academy's reputation into question. Yunfei narrows his eyes as he watches, finding the freedom-loving specialist more interesting than he expected. The students are outraged by the insult. One of the leaders shouts for Qianmo to shut his mouth, asking if he really thinks he can get away with insulting their academy spirit before wishing him a quick end. Suddenly, Qianmo's fishing rod bends violently. He shouts in excitement, realizing he's finally hooked a big one. A massive creature erupts from the water, sending the players into a state of panic. They scream in terror, wondering if this is a hidden boss they've never seen before. Qianmo has successfully pulled up Prince Nazyak, a level 22 elite boss covered in blue spikes. Yunfei grits his teeth, realizing that even he couldn't take this monster on alone. He wonders if the creature's appearance is somehow tied to Qianmo. Turning to the group, Yunfei notes how rare this boss is and suggests that since they have strength in numbers, they should finish it off and claim the treasure for themselves. Qianmo tosses the turtle tails toward the group, warning them that they're about to sacrifice their lives. As Nazyak lunges out of the water, Ding Hong screams that the attack is starting. The initial blow scatters the players, but Yunfei maintains his composure. He uses a freezing technique to create a massive ice barrier and orders the others to launch a magical counterattack. Ding Hong praises Yunfei, claiming he's the only reason they're still standing against the prince. He decides to use the chaos to their advantage, ordering a small group to take Qianmo out while the others distract the boss. 3 students from the Demon Academy rush to Qianmo, who realizes Ding Hong has truly lost his mind if he thinks this will work. Qianmo switches to a spear, noting that any complex tactics are useless against his raw efficiency. He uses a cleanup skill to push back his attackers. When 3 mages try to cast from the sidelines, Qianmo instantly swaps to a dart and triggers a shuriken skill, a classic assassin move. The strike interrupts the mage's casting. He then follows up with a crescent blade attack, forcing the group back in horror. They are stunned by how quickly he switches weapons. Even for a freedom-loving specialist, his swap speed is more than twice as fast as anything they've ever seen. Suddenly, Nazyak shatters the ice barrier and roars in fury. The boss enters his second phase, activating his legendary trident. Massive jets of water erupt from the ground, flooding the entire area and submerging the players. Qianmo, however, remains calm, knowing he has a massive advantage while underwater. The system announces that Prince Nazyak has entered an invincible state for the next 30 seconds. Leon swims over to Yunfei, panicking because their mages can't cast underwater and their breath is running out. Zhao Yaner suggests they just let Nazyak finish Qianmo off, but Ding Hong is furious. He wonders if fate itself himself is protecting Qianmo and curses the unfairness of the situation. Yunfei tells the group they can leave if they want, but he intends to face the freedom-loving specialist himself. Ding Hong is relieved that his strongest asset is still willing to fight. He rallies the students, promising to double their reward if they focus all their strength on finishing Qianmo instead of the boss. The students look at each other, grip their weapons, and dive deep into the water to hunt down the hero. Qianmo watches with a grin, ready to settle things. He easily dodges a fireball and notes that the 30-second countdown for the boss's invincibility has started. Realizing it will soon be impossible to keep the monster at bay, Qianmo dives deeper into the dark water. Ding Hong loses sight of him and wonders if Qianmo is choosing to end it all, assuming no one can survive underwater for more than 2 minutes. As Prince Nazyak's invincibility fades, the tension causes a vein to bulge on Ding Hong's forehead. He's convinced Qianmo is finished, believing that staying submerged for this long is a death sentence. Suddenly, the boss unleashes a deep-sea vortex, creating massive whirlpools that suck the players toward the bottom. The team panics, screaming as they realize they won't be able to surface for air in time. Yunfei tries to fight back, launching a fireball explosion at the boss's head. He's stunned to see it has almost no effect. Ding Hong shouts in frustration that fire techniques lose most of their lethality underwater. The group's mage agrees they need to retreat immediately to save themselves. Ding Hong tells Yunfei that since Qianmo is surely a dead man by now, they should give up for today. Yunfei reluctantly agrees to move on, promising he'll succeed next time. As the team scrambles toward the surface, Nazyak roars from the depths, furious that they dared to provoke him and then run away. He triggers ice shackles, freezing Ding Hong solid before he can reach the top. Ding Hong's oxygen warning flashes. He has only 10 seconds left. He thinks to himself that even if he loses a level now, he'll come back to finish Qianmo later. But then, his eyes widened in total shock. Qianmo is right there, casually waving hello. Ding Hong is outraged and confused. He can't understand how Qianmo is alive, especially after being dragged so deep. Nazyak turns his full attention to Qianmo, who realizes it's finally time for their one-on-one showdown. The boss fires a beam of light from his mouth and tries to use his ice shackles again. Qianmo stays composed, activating his mask of awareness to sync his speed with the enemy and reflect the incoming attack. Qianmo checks his interface and realizes he needs to close the gap. He equips his level 8 running shoes and activates their speed boost, thankful that the reward is coming in so handy. He switches to a one-handed sword, noting that while his level is 15, his attribute bonuses give him the power of a level 17. Furthermore, his hidden specialization multiplier effectively pushes his combat abilities to level 25. He plunges his sword into Nazyak's head, determined to end this. Qianmo leaps back as the monster roars in a final desperate attempt to kill him. Qianmo swaps to his machine gun and unloads a barrage directly into the boss's face. Nazyak's health bar plummets until it's nearly empty. Qianmo sees that only 101 health points remain and prepares for the final blow. The monster lunges one last time, mouth open wide, convinced he can still take Qianmo down. Qianmo just smiles, waits for the perfect moment, and uses a rotation strike that deals 120 damage. Nazyak explodes into fragments. A blue notification window appears, congratulating Qianmo on completing the hidden mission, a disappearing shadow. He jumps to level 17 and is awarded a golden chest. Back on the shore, Qianmo excitedly opens the chest and finds a white ribbon covered in ancient symbols. He has just received an epic attribute, the Tide Amulet. The item description notes that it has no level requirements, meaning Qianmo can use its top-tier power immediately. Qianmo smiles, feeling the surge of power. With this amulet, he can take on monsters and players dozens of levels higher than him. For anyone at his current rank, he has officially become invincible. In the Zhong City Education Department, the atmosphere is tense. A high-ranking official shouts his disapproval, refusing to grant Qianmo the special quota. Li Tian crosses his arms and reminds everyone that Qianmo shattered the city record by reaching level 14. He asks why there is even a debate. Tianfeng, sitting opposite him, admits that while Qianmo is a genius, his choice to remain freedom-loving without a standard specialization makes him a risky investment. He slams his hands on the table, arguing that since the city only offers one quota per year, it shouldn't be wasted on someone with such an unconventional path. Li Tian stands up to object, suspecting Tianfeng has hidden motives for blocking Qianmo. Another participant interrupts with a round of applause, adjusting his glasses. He suggests a simple solution. Previously, the committee had chosen Dao Yu from Manhwa School for the quota. Dao Yu is level 12, possesses an S-rank talent, and is a specialized wizard. However, since Qianmo emerged after that decision was made, Tianfeng proposes a direct solution. Let the two of them fight, and the winner takes the quota. Meanwhile, back at the supply shop, a man in a tank top apologizes apologizes to Qianmo for the wait. He is stunned as he finishes weighing Qianmo's catch, which totals a staggering 734 kilograms. He hands Qianmo a large tray of coins, marveling at how he managed to haul in so much. He even offers Qianmo a 30% rebate on his future purchases. Qianmo smiles to himself, realizing just how much of a gold mine the Genesis continent really is. Qianmo looks up at a nearby television screen. A host is broadcasting live from Zhong City Academy. Qianmo dries his hair with a towel and is surprised to hear his own school mentioned. The shopkeeper is shocked that Qianmo hasn't heard the news, explaining that the headlines are full of the upcoming competition between Zhong and Manhwa to decide who earns the city's quota. Qianmo checks his interface and sees a long list of missed calls. He realizes that because he was so busy with his recent missions, he had ignored his phone entirely. He settles in to watch the broadcast to understand the rules. The announcer points to a board, explaining that the event has two parts: a team competition worth 10 points and a battle of attrition worth 20 points. The team battle is a 5-on-5 elimination round. Additionally, each school sends 20 participants for the attrition phase. Whichever school has the most students standing at the end wins those points. The stadium is packed, and the host's voice booms over the crowd as he introduces the teams. Zhong City Academy's primary lineup features a fighter, a mage, a shooter, a priest, and a warrior. Manhwa counters with a swordsman, a horseman, a magic caster, an assassin, and a boxer. The crowd erupts in cheers, wishing Luo Jing luck. Some note that Dao Yu is Manhwa's strongest student at level 12, but others argue he's no match for Qianmo, though they wonder why Qianmo hasn't shown up yet. Tianfeng grins, mocking Qianmo for being too afraid to compete. Yanmin tells him to be patient, confident that Qianmo will arrive. Dao Yu, looking down on his opponents, asks where the famous Qianmo is and mocks Zhong Academy, calling it a dump. Luo Jing grits her teeth, wondering how Qianmo could miss such an important opportunity. She pushes her frustration aside and gathers the team to discuss their strategy. She instructs the mage to guard their priest from the enemy assassin, noting that since Manhwa doesn't have a healer, Zhong's priority must be keeping their own priest safe. Luo Jing tells her teammates she will provide fire support, while the fighter and boxer target Dao Yu directly to prevent him from casting his powerful spells. Li Tian taps the microphone and announces the start of the competition. Luo Jing takes charge, shouting for her team to move forward. The two sides clash immediately. Zhong's boxer moves to shield their front line from incoming fire, and the commentator notes that Luo Jing is living up to her reputation. Using her A-rank talent, she boosts her firepower by 25%, quickly overwhelming the opponents in front of her. This opening gives the fighter a chance to close the gap on Dao Yu, putting the enemy leader in a tight spot. Just as the fighter prepares to strike Dao Yu from behind, the enemy rider uses a support and defense skill, slamming his shield forward to knock the fighter back. In the chaos, the enemy assassin triggers his invisibility skill and vanishes. Luo Jing looks back at her priest, shouting for the team to stay alert and protect their healer. Suddenly, the priest points behind Luo Jing, warning her of an incoming attack. The assassin strikes her from behind, causing her to scream in surprise. She manages to spin around and land a parrying kick, sending the assassin tumbling away. Wiping a smudge from her face, she demands to know why they targeted her instead of the priest. Dao Yu holds out his glowing staff and explains that she is the core of her team's formation. He begins preparing a high-level demonic spell, Thunder Bomb. The crowd is stunned, wondering how he can cast such a massive spell so quickly when it usually takes 5 seconds to charge. Tianfeng watches with a smug smile. He reveals that Dao Yu possesses an S-rank talent that reduces all spellcasting times by 30%. Dao Yu launches the attack at Luo Jing. Zhong's priest quickly deploys a shield to pull her towards safety, but Dao Yu laughs, telling her it's useless because the thunder bomb will track her down. Luo Jing looks back just as a blinding flash of light consumes her. Luo Jing falls to the ground, severely injured. The Zhong mage rushes to her side, realizing they can't continue the fight and need to get Luo Jing medical attention immediately to save her life. Dao Yu mocks them, laughing that their leader is down and Qianmo is nowhere to be found. He predicts that Zhong City Academy will face total humiliation today. Because of Luo Jing's injury, the team battle was cut short. The score for the battle of attrition is a disaster for Zhong Academy, 4-18 in favor of Manhwa. The crowd watches as a fierce warrior easily handles a magical swordsman. People in the stands are losing hope, noting that Manhwa still has 15 participants left while Zhong is nearly wiped out. They credit Dao Yu for the lopsided score, noting he defeated 8 people single-handedly. Even Qianmo's fans start to worry that he might be too late to help. Tianfeng turns to Yanmin and tells him to just admit defeat instead of embarrassing the school any further. Yanmin tells him not to be so impatient. Tianfeng just grins, suggesting they sit back and enjoy the brilliant performance of his school instead. Nearby, Zhang Lei is nervously calling Qianmo, wondering why he still isn't answering his phone. The enemy warrior charges at a red-haired student, knocking the sword from her hand and telling her to leave the stage. Just as the crowd begins to give up, Chianmo suddenly appears by her side. He supports her by the shoulders and tells her that he's here now and she can rely on him. The stadium erupts in cheers as the students realize their main hope has finally arrived, shouting for him to avenge his teammates. The warrior points his sword at Chianmo and mocks him, saying it's a shame he showed up just to watch his school lose. He lunges at Chianmo with a lethal strike. Chianmo doesn't hesitate, he pulls out a machine gun and fires. The warrior is dropped instantly. Chianmo looks toward the opposing side with a gloomy expression and asks who is next. The Manhwa supporters are in total shock. They can't understand how Chianmo finished the match in a single second. Even though Chianmo is 4 levels higher, the gap in power seems far beyond what anyone expected. The stadium erupts into total chaos as the leaderboard updates. Lightning flashes in Chianmo's eyes, and the information window reveals he is now a level 17 free-spirited warrior. The students are in shock, shouting in disbelief that he reached such a high level so quickly. Their hope is instantly restored, and the stands roar with cheers of "Long live Chianmo!" Yanmin watches with a proud smile, admitting that even he didn't expect Chianmo to climb so far. He reveals that while he knew Chianmo would arrive, he had no idea the boy had reached level 17. Yanmin's colleagues are stunned, wondering how a person without a traditional specialization could achieve such a feat. Chianmo lands in the center of the arena and playfully asks his opponents for some advice. Privately, he thinks it's almost unfair that his teammates had to struggle against these people while he has to face them at his current strength. He tells the remaining Manhwa participants to hurry up because he doesn't have much time to waste. One student charges Chianmo, hoping for a miracle, but Chianmo simply sidesteps. The enemy uses an invisibility skill to disappear, but Chianmo leaps into the air and pushes him back with perfect precision. Li Hong shouts in excitement that Chianmo can even track an invisible target. Zhang Lei notes that this is exactly why the entire academy supports Chianmo. His presence alone boosts everyone's spirits. 10 minutes later, a frantic student rushes into the Manhwa break room. Dao Yu is resting and asks why he's being interrupted. The student shouts that Chianmo arrived at the last second and has already spent 15 minutes completely evening the score. Their students are collapsing from exhaustion. Dao Yu grits his teeth, unable to believe his lead has vanished. The crowd watches as the Manhwa team falls into a desperate position. Their final participant, Jiamu, is trembling. He wonders why he has to be the last one left just to be humiliated by Chianmo. Dao Yu finally steps onto the arena, mocking Chianmo for intimidating a level 10 student when he is level 17. He furiously challenges Chianmo to a duel. One of the officials objects, stating that Dao Yu has already taken his break and the rules don't allow him to rejoin. But Dao Yu taunts Chianmo, asking if he's afraid to fight a level 12 wizard. Chianmo stares him down, sensing that Dao Yu is different from the other students and likely hiding a secret. He accepts the challenge, telling Dao Yu to bring it on. The crowd warns Chianmo to be careful, reminding him that Dao Yu's S-rank talent allows him to cast 30% faster. Zhang Lei announces that since both sides have consented, they will hold a final double duel between Dao Yu and Chianmo. As the fight begins, Chianmo tries to land a punch, but Chianmo dodges and counters with a powerful uppercut that sends Chianmo flying. In seconds, Chianmo is finished. Someone cheers from the stands, shouting that the free-spirited path is actually incredible. Dao Yu immediately raises his staff and loads a gas bomb. Chianmo realizes the spell is coming fast. Dao Yu smiles, thinking Chianmo reacted too late, and fires. Chianmo analyzes the timing. Dao Yu summoned the spell in only 3.5 seconds, even though a thunder bomb usually takes 5. Chianmo notes that while it only took him 3 seconds to defeat Jiamu, Dao Yu is still incredibly dangerous. As the dust clears, Chianmo walks out unharmed. He tells Dao Yu that while he can shorten his casting time, Chianmo isn't fooled. Chianmo points a finger at him and asks if Dao Yu underwent a secret baptism in a secret kingdom to get these rewards. Dao Yu is shaken, realizing Chianmo has figured out his secret. He shouts for Chianmo to shut up, but the crowd is already buzzing. One spectator asks what a secret baptism even is, and another replies that it's common knowledge for high-level experts. It's a rare ritual that grants massive power boost. Chianmo explains that the baptism of the secret kingdom is a rare bonus that comes in 2 forms. He presents a scroll and clarifies that while players awaken their talents and specializations between levels 1 and 10, the transition from level 10 to 20 allows for a secret baptism that grants powerful bonuses. He adds that given the current levels of Dao Yu and his team, there is no way they could have completed such a high-level secret kingdom on their own. He suggests they must have received illegal outside help to cheat the system, a move that is strictly forbidden in official competitions. The crowd erupts in anger, realization dawning on them. They shout that this explains Manhwa's unnatural strength and demand a full investigation into the academy. The fans call for justice, insisting that the authorities step in immediately. Yanmin turns to his colleagues and admits that without Chianmo's insight, they might never have suspected a thing. He agrees that the situation is highly suspicious and decides to contact the Management Association to launch a formal probe. Meanwhile, Tianfeng is furious, accusing Chianmo of simply throwing mud because the competition got tough. He wonders how a student like Chianmo could possibly spot details that even seasoned experts missed. The spectators are in awe, noting that Chianmo's perception seems to go far beyond that of a normal student. Some even suggest he might be stronger than a third-year elite. beat. One of the officials remains skeptical, arguing that even a senior couldn't reach level 17 this fast without taking some kind of wrong path. Tianmo calmly raises his hand and explains that he simply understands every specialization better than anyone else, allowing him to see their flaws at a glance. The official doesn't believe him, shouting that an ordinary guy shouldn't have that much knowledge. He argues that human energy is limited, and there are too many techniques in the world for one person to memorize. To test Tianmo's claim, he challenges him. If Tianmo can't prove his knowledge, he will face the consequences. He asks Tianmo to explain the specifics of a rare and obscure class, the Holy Messenger of the Blue Fist. The crowd gasps, noting that this class is incredibly unpopular. They are certain Tianmo will fail because almost no one chooses that specialization anymore. Tianfeng grits his teeth, hoping to see Tianmo humiliated. He knows that unless someone had personally encountered that class years ago, they wouldn't know a thing about it. Tianmo doesn't miss a beat. He explains that the class's primary skill is mind control. By driving a spear into the ground, a messenger can paralyze all enemies within a specific radius. He notes the cooldown is a mere 80 milliseconds and adds that the class can boost movement speed by 20%, attack speed by 10%, and jump height by 50% for a duration of 10 seconds. Tianfeng is speechless, his shock evident to everyone. The audience notices his expression and begins to laugh, realizing Tianmo was 100% correct. They cheer for Tianmo, calling him a genius for having such an encyclopedic memory of combat styles. Dao Yu, desperate to regain control, claims Tianmo just got lucky. He decides to play his trump card, asking Tianmo to reveal the hidden characteristics of a spellcaster. The audience is outraged, shouting that Dao Yu is being unfair since only a spellcaster would ever know those secrets. They believe he is intentionally trying to trap Tianmo. Tianmo looks at his hand and coolly explains that the hidden trait of a spellcaster is the ability to embody studied spells into pure magic. He describes how these spells are categorized into 5 elements: gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, each with fundamentally different effects. He reveals that the reason the Thunderbomb is so devastating is that it belongs to the gold element, and once a caster reaches the second circle, it can create even more lethal variations. Dao Yu's jaw drops. He stammers, asking how Tianmo could possibly know such deep secrets. His legs begin to tremble and he collapses to the ground, completely overwhelmed by the realization that Tianmo's knowledge is far superior to his own. Li Tian shakes his head, expressing disappointment that Dao Yu decided to waste such immense talent on a dishonest path. He declares that the farce is over and calls for the final results. Tianfeng lowers his head, admitting that while he only wanted to secure a bright future for his student, Dao Yu ultimately stumbled. The judge announces that Manhwa Academy is stripped of all its achievements from the event, and Zhang City Academy is officially declared the winner. The arena erupts in cheers for Tianmo, who stands undefeated as the champion. Li Tian raises his hand to announce that the city's prestigious university quota officially belongs to Tianmo. Later, Tianmo sits in the director's office, carefully reviewing a list of the top 10 universities in the country. He notices that none of them seem to have what he's looking for. He points to a different name in his records, Shenu Unity University. He asks why a school with so many secret kingdoms isn't ranked among the top 10. Li Tian sets down his tea and explains that 50 years ago, Shenu was the #1 institution in the country. However, as other universities developed more progressive and accessible secret kingdoms, their students grew stronger. Shenu's secret kingdoms remained notoriously difficult, far harder than any other institutions, and eventually, it became impossible for average students to pass them. This led to a wave of expulsions and a sharp decline in the school's popularity. Tianmo stares at the book, realizing Shenu has the exact resources he needs to grow. He tells Li Tian that the academy can give the quota to another student because he plans to take the entrance exams and get into Shenu on his own merit. Li Tian is shocked, urging him to reconsider since a guaranteed quota is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Yanmin steps in, supporting Tianmo's decision. He tells Li Tian that Tianmo clearly has his own reasons, and they shouldn't try to control his path. Tianmo asks if the academy can provide the necessary recommendation letters, and Yanmin assures him it won't be a problem. Meanwhile, at the Management Association, staff members are reviewing the data from the recent battle at the beach. One of the analysts is stunned as he scrolls through the tablet, realizing that a third-year student from Zhang City has a combat power exceeding 12,000. He calls Tianmo a demon, noting how he took down 21 people and a level 22 rare boss while only at level 15. Chief Wu agrees that Tianmo is a rare genius the country cannot afford to lose, but he is confused when he sees a high-level official from the Demon University in the records. Chief Wu enters a crowded reception area where angry parents are waiting. They beg for his help, complaining that their sons, who are among the top students, have mysteriously dropped to level 4 for no apparent reason. They blame Tianmo and demand that his personal data be released. A man named Hong Shan approaches Chief Wu with a smile, mentioning it's been a long time. He demands that Chief Wu hand over everything they have on Qianmo. Chief Wu remains firm, refusing the request. He points out that based on his information, Qianmo didn't start the conflict. It was provoked by the students from Hongshan's own university. Chief Wu makes it clear he won't be providing any information to help them target a student who is simply defending himself. Hongshan tries to pressure Chief Wu by asking what will happen if he receives direct orders to release the data. Chief Wu, however, remains firm. He knows Qianmo represents a bright future for their world and refuses to let a group of bullies finish him off. He declares that he will protect the young genius at all costs. The crowd watches in fear as the two powerful warriors face each other, their energy radiating through the room. Hongshan laughs, claiming he anticipated this resistance and already contacted headquarters for instructions. Chief Wu grits his teeth, realizing Hongshan has gone over his head to denounce him. For a moment, it looks like Hongshan has won, as the onlookers cheer for the vice director and his support from the top. However, the tide quickly turns. A message arrives from headquarters. Hongshan's request for Qianmo's private information has been officially rejected. Hongshan is stunned, realizing a very powerful patron must be backing Qianmo from the shadows. Chief Wu is equally surprised but relieved, realizing he isn't the only one who believes in Qianmo's potential. He grins, knowing Qianmo is even more influential than he previously thought, and vows to help him navigate the upcoming challenges. Suddenly, the attitude of the other officials shifts. A high-ranking woman admits that perhaps her children were the ones who caused the trouble and should be dealt with accordingly. Oscar agrees, noting that if the higher-ups trust Qianmo, he will too. He asks Chief Wu to pass along his regards to Qianmo before leaving the room. Chief Wu looks at a set of cards Qianmo left behind, including a generous auction card and an incredibly rare voucher for level 60 armor. He realizes Qianmo has already surpassed 90% of the population of Xia country in terms of potential and resources. He hopes the young man won't let him down. Back at the academy, the sun shines through the window as Yanmin apologizes to Qianmo, explaining they could only secure about 1/3 of the rare materials he requested. Li Tian notes that Qianmo's demands are massive. If he truly needs all these items, it's clear the universities really don't have anything left to teach him. Qianmo lowers his head in gratitude, telling them he appreciates whatever they could find. He mentions he has other tasks to attend to and prepares to leave. Li Tian has a bad feeling, asking Qianmo if he's planning something dangerous. Yanmin warns him that while they can help him settle most problems, he must avoid any unnecessary conflict or finishing people off. He asks what Qianmo is even trying to build with such rare components. Qianmo just grins and says he's going to create the most powerful weapon of all time. Meanwhile, the atmosphere at Manhwa Academy is somber. The director reads a crushing message from the Education Bureau. The academy must return every honorary award received in the last 3 years. Daoyu is stripped of his academic status and banned from the university entrance exams for the next 5 years. The staff sits in stunned silence as they learn that every teacher involved in the cheating scandal is banned from future employment. Wang is informed that he will face further disciplinary action from the quality committee. They realize the damage is irreparable. Their best students are suspended or transferring, and the academy is essentially starting over from zero. Suddenly, a staff member bursts into the room, shouting that Qianmo has arrived. The teachers are outraged, wondering why the student who caused their downfall would dare to show up now. Someone clenches his fist and says he will go down to find out what Qianmo wants. Outside, the Manhwa students whisper as Qianmo walks across the grass. Despite the rivalries, some admit he is a powerful and handsome guy, even considering him an ideal type. Kang Yang approaches him, assuming Qianmo has come to mock them in their defeat. Qianmo just smiles and tells him he isn't there for a joke. He's there to initiate a battle for the secret kingdom. The director stares at Qianmo, wondering if he's joking. He asks Qianmo if he truly thinks a single student can initiate a battle for the secret kingdom. The surrounding crowd is equally confused, whispering about what this challenge actually means and why the director looks so shaken. Qianmo explains that a battle for the secret kingdom is a formal challenge to decide who owns the territory. Currently, the Manhwa Academy has full control over its designated zones, meaning they get all the rewards while outsiders get nothing. However, if an outsider sets a new speed record in the kingdom, they become the leader. If a formal challenge is issued, the ownership of the entire kingdom is put on the line. The director clenches his fist and shouts that a level 17 child has no right to challenge them. He tells Qianmo to go back to his own academy, declaring that he isn't welcome. Qianmo just grins and asks if they are actually afraid to take him on. Kang Yang raises his hand, insisting they aren't scared. He asks Qianmo what the stakes are. Qianmo explains that he needs about 20 specific rare materials. If he wins, the academy must hand over 5 of them. Kang Yang looks over Qianmo's list, wondering why a student would need such a strange collection of items, and asks what happens if Qianmo loses. Qianmo smiles, promising that if he fails, he will do whatever the academy demands of him. Kang Yang agrees to the bet and tells Qianmo to follow him. The group gathers at the entrance entrance to the secret kingdom. Kang Yang explains that their academy controls the 4th level. To win the bet, Xianmo has 3 attempts to clear the level and set a new all-time record. Xianmo looks over the available stages. One teacher shouts that Xianmo will likely choose Mind of the Dead since the recommended level is lower than his own. Even then, the current record is over 2 hours and 43 minutes, a time that took a teacher 2 months of practice to achieve. The crowd gasps when Xianmo selects the Dark Abyss. They call him crazy for choosing the most difficult location. Kang Yang warns him that the terrain is extremely dangerous and setting a record at his level is nearly impossible, but Xianmo remains confident. Kang Yang orders the screens to be turned on so everyone can watch, hoping that seeing Xianmo fail will boost the school's morale. Xianmo lands in the abyss and looks around. He remembers from his past life that this place is a labyrinth filled primarily with fishmen. He smiles, thinking it's time to go fishing again. He moves with blinding speed, striking every monster in his path. The students watching the screens are stunned. They've never seen anyone handle these creatures so easily. Xianmo reaches a large pond, identifying the first major obstacle. He knows that if the local whirlwinds touch the environmental attributes, they become impossible to track. Fortunately, his freedom-loving specialization gives him the agility to ignore the terrain. He sprints directly across the surface of the water. Kang Yang asks for a time check and is shocked to learn that while the teachers usually take 25 minutes to get this far, Xianmo has done it in only 12. Xianmo continues until he reaches a sleeping monster, the Lobster Lord. The boss wakes up as Xianmo approaches. Xianmo notes that the creature's stats aren't actually that high and decides there won't be any problems. He launches a projectile directly into the lobster's head to begin the final phase. Xianmo stares down his opponent, but the spectators are convinced he's made a mistake. They note that the Lobster Lord, Bala, specializes in counterattacking anyone who enters close range. One teacher shouts that Xianmo is walking right into a trap, while another suggests that despite Xianmo's high damage output, his lack of experience will be his downfall. The onlookers recall how the current record holder struggled with this level. The teacher had to use a strategy of avoidance, even losing significant health to piranhas just to bypass a direct confrontation with Bala. Kang Yang watches the screen intently, hearing that if Bala is defeated, the piranhas will enter a frenzy. He expects to witness the legendary Xianmo being overwhelmed by a swarm of hungry fish. Xianmo doesn't hesitate. He charges the monster, slides expertly beneath its massive frame, and delivers a crushing blow. Bala crashes into the water but quickly recovers, roaring that the water is his domain, and Xianmo stands no chance there. Xianmo calmly replies that it all depends on who is brave enough to dive. He lunges forward and pierces the back of the monster's head. As blood spills into the water, Xianmo notices the piranhas surfacing. Drawn by the scent, he knows the real chaos is about to begin. The Lobster Lord thrashes in pain, and Xianmo manages to extract a strange orange liquid from the creature. He tosses it aside, ignoring the monster's threats, and uses the lobster's own head as a springboard to leap back to safety. Xianmo glances at his progress, noting that he still has a bit of room to grow. Xianmo sprints into the next passage, leaving the staff in total shock. Kang Yang can't believe what he's seeing, wondering how a student could possess such a tactical mindset. He realizes that the teacher's best efforts look like amateur work compared to Xianmo's efficiency. Even though the labyrinth is full of dead ends that took the staff 20 tries to memorize, Xianmo navigates the caves perfectly on his first attempt. One observer shouts that it's impossible for a newcomer to know the route so well, suggesting Xianmo might have secretly been here before. Kang Yang snaps at them to stop making excuses. He points out that the Dark Abyss has always been under their exclusive control, so Xianmo couldn't have practiced. He tells them it's time to admit that Xianmo simply has superior abilities, even if it means their academy's dungeon is about to be claimed by a high school student. The students watching the broadcast are thrilled, noting that Xianmo cleared the boss arc in less than 2 hours. Once he finishes the intermediate stage, he will face the final boss, Azimal. They are certain they are about to witness a record that will never be broken. Xianmo pushes open a set of massive doors, arriving at the final chamber. He spots an altar and recalls the mechanics. Lighting each of the 4 brazier will summon a level 18 snake. Once all 4 are lit, the final boss will appear. Confident in his current strength, Xianmo summons a fireball and tosses it toward the altars. In an instant, all 4 braziers ignite. The students are in total shock, shouting that Xianmo is trying to take on every monster at once. They realize that by lighting all 4 braziers simultaneously, he's summoned 16 level 18 creatures to the arena. Some joke that if he actually pulls this off, they might as well transfer to his academy tomorrow. The faculty members watch the screen, noting the massive pressure Xianmo is under. They assume his defeat is inevitable, which would work in their favor. Kang Yang folds his arms, waiting to see how Xianmo handles the swarm. As the snakes surround him, Xianmo drops into a crouch and activates a skill that reduces the enemy's attack power while boosting his own defense for 30 seconds. Green light radiates from him before he leaps back, pulls out a bomb launcher, and triggers a massive explosion. The observers are stunned by his versatility. They point out that he's combining debuffs, defensive buffs, and ignition-based napalm bombs with ease. Tianmo then switches to his staff and calls down a massive rock, causing another devastating blast. One of the men clenches his fist in disbelief, wondering how Tianmo can master the skills of an ammunition expert and an elementalist at the same time, even using complex chemical reactions in his attacks. Kang Yang finally admits that Qianmo is a genius. He realizes the free-spirited specialization is far more powerful than they imagined, and that Manhwa Academy is lagging far behind Qianmo's level of skill and movement. As the braziers flare, the final boss, a gargantuan snake named Azimal, emerges and demands to know who dared to summon him. Qianmo greets the beast as an old acquaintance and tells him to show his true strength. Azimal roars, promising to make Qianmo pay, and lunges forward. Qianmo dodges a spray of poison and slices off one of the monster's tails. He remembers that the snake can regenerate, so the only way to win is to destroy all the heads quickly. Qianmo charges directly into the monster's path, piercing one head before using a grappling hook to pull himself up to another. He moves with surgical precision, slicing through the remaining heads in rapid succession. Qianmo lands smoothly as a notification announces he has set a new record. A reward chest appears, and Qianmo smirks as he opens it, noting that he has everything he needs now. He's one step closer to completing his ultimate weapon. Back in the stands, the students are on their feet, screaming in excitement. Qianmo cleared the dungeon in 1 hour, 56 minutes, and 32 seconds, nearly twice as fast as the previous record. They believe this record will stand for at least 20 years. The portal glows as Qianmo emerges. Kang Yang realizes the Dark Abyss now officially belongs to Qianmo. Qianmo tells the staff they were wrong to think their achievements were untouchable. They grew complacent over the last decade and paid the price. He reminds Kang Yang that it's time to fulfill the promise. The director assures Qianmo that the academy will keep its word and gather his materials within a week. However, Qianmo raises the stakes, asking if they are brave enough to put 3 more of their secret kingdoms on the line. The staff members behind Kang Yang are terrified, shouting that they've had enough excitement and will lose everything if they keep gambling against him. Kang Yang, however, is fueled by pride. He refuses to admit they are weak and notes that, by the rules, they can't refuse a challenge for the kingdoms. He makes a bold counteroffer. If Qianmo can successfully take all their secret kingdoms, Kang Yang will double the promised materials. But there's a massive catch. If Qianmo wins, the Manhwa Academy will officially merge with the Zhang Academy. Changyu stares at his tablet in disbelief, realizing that Qianmo has already conquered every secret kingdom at Manhwa Academy and used the victory to force a merger with Zhang Academy. Suddenly, an assistant bursts into the room, panicking because Qianmo has arrived at their gates. Changyu tries to stay calm, asking why everyone is making such a fuss over a small matter, though the assistant insists they must be ready for him. Looking out the window, the director admits that Qianmo's recent track record proves he is far more dangerous than he looks. He predicts that Qianmo will try to seize their own secret kingdom next. He grins, plotting to rig the challenges so that Qianmo will find it impossible to succeed. Qianmo stands at the academy entrance, where he is confronted by a level 22 Kong master named Yuxi. Yuxi challenges him to a fight, but Qianmo simply asks if Yuxi truly believes he has the strength to stop him. The surrounding crowd is shocked, whispering that it's illegal for a level 22 teacher to duel an 18-year-old student, especially since the rules usually require a minimum of level 20 for such a match. In the school's conference room, staff members frantically search for Qianmo's weaknesses. Meanwhile, out on the field, Yuxi lunges at Qianmo, telling him he only has himself to blame for not joining their school. Qianmo blocks the punch with perfect timing. Yuxi is stunned, realizing Qianmo parried his attack in less than 10 milliseconds, a feat he's never seen before. Qianmo leaps onto Yuxi and delivers a crushing blow to his chest, knocking the teacher unconscious instantly. Students watch from the windows in awe, realizing that even their high-level teachers are no match for Qianmo. They wonder what will happen now that a level 22 expert has been defeated so easily. Qianmo looks at the remaining staff and asks if they plan to keep blocking his path to the secret kingdom one by one. A blonde teacher clenches his fist, refusing to believe Qianmo is invincible. He argues that after so many battles, Qianmo must be exhausted. Qianmo tells him they should just end this quickly. As the teacher begins to glow with blue energy, he suddenly freezes in terror. Qianmo pulls out a firearm and finishes the encounter with a single shot. The observers jump to their feet, shouting in confusion. They can't understand how a seasoned teacher couldn't even defend himself, or where Qianmo gets such overwhelming power. Qianmo turns toward the building and tells the rest of the staff to come out and face him instead of making him wait. The director and his team realize Qianmo doesn't take them seriously at all, and they decide to confront him together. Qianmo stands over the defeated guards as Changyu dude glares at him. Tianmo tells him to line up if they want to fight. A level 27 warrior jumps into the fray but is dropped by a hail of bullets before he can even land. Tianmo slings his gun over his shoulder and calls for the next challenger. A group of elite warriors, level 32, 35, and 38, all rush Tianmo at once. As the sun begins to set, the area around Tianmo is littered with unconscious experts. Changyu grits his teeth, realizing he has no teachers left below level 38. While the rules prevent him from physically restraining Tianmo, he considers stepping in personally. However, as he prepares to move, he is overcome by a sudden sense of dread. He realizes that if he makes a move against Tianmo, he might actually lose his life. Sweating, Changyu realizes he can no longer interfere without destroying his reputation and his safety. He forces a smile and changes his tone, praising Tianmo's amazing abilities and welcoming him into the academy as an honored guest. Soon after, news headlines explode across the city. 20 different secret kingdoms in Zhang City have been successfully invaded by a single student. In a conference room at Zhang Academy, the leadership acknowledges that the balance of power has completely shifted, and it is all thanks to Tianmo's recent victories. Kang Yang listens in silence as the board discusses a major proposal, awarding Tianmo the title of honorary director. The room breaks into a heated debate, but since no one can truly object to his merit, the decision is made to finalize it upon his return. Yanmin looks around, wondering where Tianmo has vanished to this time after causing such a massive stir. The scene shifts to the coast of Lano on the continent of the Genesis. Under the bright coastal sun, Tianmo has been busy clearing waves of monsters. A notification appears congratulating him on reaching level 20 and leveling his skills up to rank 3. Tianmo checks his upgraded passive skills. His gun attacks can sometimes fire 15 accurate bullets, trigger a strong long-range area attack, or unleash a powerful wave strike that hits enemies multiple times with higher damage and brief invulnerability. Tianmo smiles, noting that his machine gun's trigger rate went up by 5%. He's firing 5 extra bullets, and his overall damage has surged by 50%. With his invulnerability time doubled, he realizes his combat options are expanding rapidly. Reflecting on his progress, Tianmo knows his damage output is finally where it needs to be. Now that he has successfully raided all 20 secret kingdoms in Zhang City, he possesses every rare material required to forge his ultimate weapon. He begins searching for a place to work and finds a local blacksmith. When Tianmo asks about learning the trade, the blacksmith gruffly demands 50 gold coins for training and another 100 to use the foundry, telling Tianmo to leave if he can't pay. Tianmo points out that the price used to be only 20 coins, accusing the man of overcharging. Tianmo realizes the blacksmith isn't just greedy, he's obsessed. He's clearly spent every cent he owns on upgrading his equipment. As Tianmo turns to leave, he mentions that it's a shame the blacksmith will never get to see his blueprint, one that is far beyond anything the man has ever encountered. Hooked by curiosity, the blacksmith chases after Tianmo, begging to see the drawing. When Tianmo finally shows it to him, the man is left speechless. He tells Tianmo that if he's allowed to work on such a masterpiece, he'll waive all fees and provide the training for free. Tianmo agrees, and the blacksmith immediately gets to work, completely awestruck. As Tianmo begins his training, the system informs him that he can currently only craft basic items and needs 10,000 experience points to reach the next level. Meanwhile, the blacksmith sits on the floor, mesmerized by the blueprint. He admits that in 30 years of smithing, he has never seen anything so brilliant. Tianmo keeps to himself that he personally refined the design to allow the weapon to shift between multiple forms, a concept far beyond the understanding of an ordinary craftsman. Tianmo, feeling slightly frustrated, tells the blacksmith that if the concepts are too advanced for him to grasp, it's probably time to move on. The blacksmith quickly crosses his arms, admitting that while he hasn't fully mastered the blueprint yet, he understands the core principles. He begs Tianmo to let him assist in the forging process, offering the use of his materials and foundry for free. Tianmo hesitates, reminding the man that he only has one set of the primary materials. If they fail, he has to start from scratch. However, seeing the blacksmith's genuine passion, Tianmo smiles and accepts the help. 2 hours later, the blacksmith places a finished piece of armor on the table. Exhausted but proud, Tianmo examines the glove as it pulses with pink mana. The system displays the stats, and Tianmo is satisfied the craftsmanship is top tier. Checking his overall status, Tianmo is stunned to see his combat power has surged to 16,000 points, a level of experience unheard of for a player at his stage. The blacksmith anxiously asks if his work meets Tianmo's standards. Tianmo confirms the quality is excellent and notes that the man has passed his test. Just then, a familiar face enters the room. It's Huang, who has come to pick up his own materials. Huang is accompanied by a master named Jiang Lao. Huang explains with a smile that although Jiang Lao is a bit of a recluse who dislikes people, he is widely considered one of the greatest masters in Genesis. Huang mentions that people pay a fortune just to get on his schedule. However, Huang stops in his tracks when he hears shouting from the back room. Pulling back the curtain, Huang is dumbfounded to see Tianmo lecturing the great master Jiang Lao on forging techniques. Tianmo is explaining that when working with liquid metal, The critical temperature must exceed 25,000 units to avoid structural failure. Wang is shocked that anyone would dare judge Zhang Lao, but Qianmo looks back at Wang with a look of recognition. Qianmo grins, realizing he's just run into the legendary level 98 swordsman from his past life. In the previous timeline, Wang was a world-famous figure who had seized control of entire islands, yet he was always calm and unperturbed. They had been close friends who could talk about anything. Zhang Lao asks Wang if he brought Qianmo here to help with his weapon. Qianmo tells Zhang Lao that since his own components aren't quite ready, he wants to see how Zhang Lao handles Wang's blade first. Zhang Lao, humbled by Qianmo's earlier lecture, admits that Qianmo's technical knowledge is far superior and begins the forge with renewed focus. 2 hours later, a joyful Huang holds a level 24 sword. Zhang Lao boasts that few can surpass his forging speed. Huang swings the blade, marveling at its 100-point attack power and incredible speed. He looks at Qianmo with newfound respect, wondering why a stranger would help him so much. Qianmo simply crosses his arms and says that since Zhang Lao has warmed up, it's time to get down to his own business. As night falls, the forge glows with an intense golden energy. Zhang Lao is amazed. He's never seen a rank 1 weapon emit such a powerful light. They look at the finished product, a multifaceted weapon that currently resembles an umbrella-shaped spear. Qianmo checks the stats. The base damage is 150 to 25% higher than what he had in his past life. He knows it's insane for a level 20 student to carry a weapon this powerful. He commands the weapon to switch to machine gun form, and the spear seamlessly transforms. Zhang Lao is taken aback by the elegant and complex design. Qianmo then switches it back to the spear. A notification confirms he has obtained an S-class weapon, making his attacks nearly impossible to dodge. However, the weapon is currently in a sealed state, meaning its stats are capped at 50%. To unlock its full potential, he needs to deal a significant amount of damage to a high-level boss. Qianmo travels to a swampy area, a mid-level secret kingdom. A crowd has gathered in front of a pink portal, consisting of high-level teams ranging from level 25 to 27. They mock Qianmo, a level 22 kid with no visible high-end armor, wondering where someone so weak is even going. Qianmo ignores them, noting there are only 10 minutes left until the portal opens. He knows the layout of this place by heart. To prepare, he activates a new skill, the Sphere of Nothingness. The system explains it's a high-speed projectile that deals continuous damage every half second. With his new weapon and this skill, Qianmo is ready to show the high-level teams what a newbie can really do. Qianmo holds the glowing sphere, noting that it feels solid and ready. By transforming the Sphere of Nothingness into a passive skill, its base attributes have surged. Now, he can use the tiny windows of time during his combat rhythm, mere fractions of a second, to weave in additional damage from other passive skills. He checks his projection interface, focusing on a specific ability called Dazzling Pattern. This skill normally creates a tactical aura that lasts 30 seconds, boosting physical and critical damage while cutting an enemy's magical output by 10%. As a pink sigil flares behind him, Qianmo is notified that he has unlocked the Dazzling Pattern of Darkness. He realizes that by making this skill passive, he no longer needs to waste time activating it. He has permanent access to its 7 distinct attribute boosts. He grins at the thought of his future power. One day, he might even be able to manifest 5 of these patterns simultaneously while wielding his spear. He would be completely unrivaled. Nearby, a crowd of higher-level adventurers looks at Qianmo with disdain. They mock him for being only level 20, assuming no one in their right mind would team up with a lone, free-spirited player in such a dangerous zone. A girl in the crowd tells her companion to lower his voice, sensing that Qianmo isn't as simple as he looked. The chatter stops when Huang arrives. The crowd recognizes him as a level 28 star from Lanfang University, one of the country's top 10 schools. They call him Invincible and watch in shock as he walks straight to Qianmo and tells him it's time to move. They can't believe an elite like Huang is associated with a free spirit. Qianmo opens his map and studies their destination. The swamp is buried deep within the thorny jungle, far more treacherous than any school-based secret realm. Nearby lies the Highland, an area strictly for level 40 players. Qianmo recalls the lore of these lands. They are tied to a legendary giant boar named Nijakamu, an immortal being covered in thorns who once fought against the Flaming Legion. Legend says that when the Lord of the Abyss, Monos, fell, his blood gave life to the thorns and creatures here. The local wild boars are Nijakamu's loyal followers, fiercely guarding the jungle until their master is reborn. As they enter the portal, Huang explains the layout. The path forks ahead, with a mini-boss guarding each side. He offers to clear the mobs for Qianmo to keep him safe, but Qianmo just smiles and suggests a friendly competition. They split up, take one path each, and see who finishes their boss first. Huang is dumbfounded, asking if Qianmo really thinks a level 20 player can outpace a level 28 swordsman. He warns Qianmo that the mobs are level 26 and hunt in aggressive packs of 4. Qianmo just smirks, asking Huang if he's the one who's actually afraid. Huang sighs, telling Qianmo not to blame him if things go south. Huang takes the left path, noting it has more monsters, and rushes off. He wonders if Qianmo is a fearless hero or just a complete fool. Huang moves through the forest like a whirlwind, smiling as he cuts through a pack of boars in a single strike. He leaps through the air, delivering a barrage of attacks. He's proud of his pace, having covered 2/3 of the distance in under 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Qianmo is moving at high speed. He charges into a massive crowd of boars, his eyes glowing pink. He decides it's time to test the new weapon. He shifts his spear into machine gun form and opens fire. The boars are mowed down instantly. Qianmo inspected the weapon, noted that one burst fires about 50 bullets, each dealing 170 damage. He's relieved that all his hard work in the forge is paying off. Huang finishes off a huge monster on his path and checks his timer, 27 minutes. He's impressed with himself, feeling his strength grow. He assumes Qianmo is likely struggling or already finished, but as he emerges from the forest, he finds Qianmo casually sitting on a log, waiting for him. Huang is staggered, asking how he got there so fast. Qianmo just smiles. Huang tries to brush it off, suggesting that Qianmo probably just ran away from the fight because it was too hard. He tells Qianmo to rest and leave the rest of the mission to him. However, as Huang continues deeper into the jungle, he notices something eerie. The path is completely empty. He eventually finds a clearing where 7 massive monster corpses are piled up in a heap. He stops, his mind racing. He wonders how a level 20 free spirit could possibly wipe out so many elites at once, something even he couldn't do. He looks around, realizing there should have been 27 elite wild boars in this sector. If they are all dead, where are the rest of the bodies? Qianmo appears behind Huang and tells him to look up. Huang raises his head and is visibly shaken. Dozens of monster corpses are impaled high on the tree's thorny spikes. Huang realizes Qianmo didn't just clear the path, he decimated level 27 boars all by himself. Stunned, he asks if Qianmo was truly responsible for all of this. Qianmo casually replies that it wasn't as hard as it looks, and that Huang could do the same if he utilized his skills better. Qianmo sits on a nearby stone and asks Huang if he's ready to move on. As they head deeper into the jungle, Qianmo thinks to himself that his plan to build the strongest character in history has officially begun. As they continue, Huang finds himself surrounded by a fresh crowd of monsters. A boar lunges at his back, but it drops dead before it can touch him. Qianmo is standing there with his machine gun, noting that Huang's reaction speed was 0.2 seconds too slow. Huang watches Qianmo fight, feeling a sense of awe and a bit of intimidation. He realizes he is still far behind Qianmo's level, but what shocks him most is Qianmo's cold, calculated attitude toward the chaos. Huang is suddenly enveloped in purple mana and finds himself overwhelmed. A boar's heavy blow sends him tumbling back, and he hits the ground hard. Qianmo looks at him with a smirk, asking if the genius swordsman of the last 13 years is actually struggling or just mocking him. Huang sighs, admitting Qianmo is on an entirely different level. Qianmo gets serious and asks Huang if he knows why he hasn't reached the top yet. As he watches Huang fight, Qianmo explains that as a warrior, Huang often ignores his own injuries, thinking health isn't important. This disrupts his rhythm and makes his strikes messy. Qianmo points out that a true master's strike depends on surgical accuracy, not just raw speed. He tells Huang to take this knowledge to heart, hoping it will help him grow. Huang stands up, reflecting on Qianmo's words. He realizes he needs to calculate his timing and the sequence of his attacks before jumping in. Qianmo smiles, noting that Huang is finally starting to resemble the legendary swordsman he knows. He asks Huang if he truly wants to become the first swordsman of Genesis. Huang is shocked but determined. Qianmo holds out his hand, offering to guide him, and Huang takes it, vowing that he will become the greatest and that no one will defeat him. Huang rushes back into the fray, but this time, he is different. He parries a boar's attack and identifies a flaw in its movement. As 2 more monsters charge, he waits exactly 0.2 seconds before moving like a whirlwind, dealing a devastating series of precise attacks. He feels a surge of satisfaction, realizing that thinking through his actions makes him 10 times more lethal. Qianmo watches, noting that he finally sees the strongest swordsman beginning to emerge. Huang approaches Qianmo, calling him an incredible teacher. Qianmo modestly tells him it was Huang's own talent that did the work, then announces that the next lesson will be their last. He points toward a massive boar, CGA, the great shaman of the wild boar clan. Qianmo explains the shaman's 4 basic skills, noting that its purification, recovery, and mono techniques are its main support abilities. Qianmo pulls out a fire staff and tells Huang his only job is to interrupt the shaman's casting while Qianmo handles the heavy lifting. He promises the battle will be over before Huang even gets tired. A massive explosion rocks the clearing, and Qianmo shifts his weapon into combat spear form. He charges at the shaman, shouting that its blood will make a fine decoration for his spear. Qianmo knows CGA has a high recovery rate, so he abandons long-range attacks to strike the boar's stomach directly. As blood spills, Qianmo notes that the spear is perfect for this fight, as it deals both physical damage and blinding dark damage. The enraged shaman roars that it will destroy Qianmo, but Qianmo just spins around and tells Huang it's his turn. Huang lunges at the shaman and swings his blade. A notification confirms he successfully interrupted the monster's recovery. Huang is thrilled, but he's suddenly stunned when a green aura surrounds the boar again. The shaman is trying to heal a second time. Qianmo tells him to stay focused and not miss the next opening. Qianmo unleashes a flurry of attacks, and Huang leaps high into the air, striking the shaman's head. He notices the recovery skill starting up again and realizes his primary demonic slash is still on cooldown. Huang knows he only has one option. He uses a piercing strike, a ghost blade skill that deals multiple horizontal and vertical hits at once. The attack dizzies the massive enemy and deals massive bonus damage. Qianmo holds a set of glowing spheres above his head, impressed that Huang is finally learning how to manipulate a boss's health bar. Qianmo fires a volley of magical strikes at the shaman, sending the boar crashing to the ground in a cloud of dust. The shaman screams in fury, refusing to die before its master Nijikamu returns. Qianmo just holds a hand in front of his face as a dark sphere flies toward the monster and explodes. Huang looked at the fallen monster and cheered, shouting that they had successfully eliminated the final enemy. He smiled broadly, telling Qianmo he was certain Qianmo would become a legendary teacher with an army of students. Qianmo closed his eyes for a moment, thinking that if he could reunite his old allies in this timeline, they could conquer the entire continent of Genesis together. Huang pointed to the map, noting that they had reached the final stage where 100 elite boars were stationed. He realized that if they finished the task now, they would complete the mission in record time. Checking his stats, Huang noted they had only been at it for 2 hours and 3 minutes and were about to shatter the current record. Qianmo grinned and asked if Huang was brave enough for something even more intense. Without warning, Qianmo pushed Huang off a cliff. Huang tumbled straight into a tent occupied by a frightened goblin. The creature shrieked in pain as Huang landed on it, asking if Huang had come to rescue him. Qianmo grabbed the goblin by the head and told everyone to stop talking and start running. As they sprinted away from a massive swarm of angry boars, Huang screamed that this was a bit too much excitement and he was sure he was going to die. Qianmo summoned an ice block to wall off the pursuers and ordered Huang to keep the goblin safe while he handled the rest. Huang was stunned, shouting that there were at least 100 boars charging at them. Huang prepared to make a final stand to save the goblin, but Qianmo suddenly stopped and turned around. He declared that the hunt ended here and pulled out a heavy firearm. Qianmo fired the cannon, and the massive recoil sent him flying backward, a specialized movement technique used for rapid repositioning. Huang ran after him, while the goblin wondered if they could truly escape such a massive herd. Qianmo swapped to his staff and told the board it was time to a demonstration. He began channeling a massive amount of dark mana, forming a ball of nothingness. Huang watched in awe as the sphere exploded, noting that while the blast lasted 4 seconds, the usual 15-second cooldown would typically leave them vulnerable. However, Qianmo followed up by firing magic bullets and then summoned several more dark balls. He told Huang to stay calm, noting that the real power of the magic bullets hadn't even been shown yet. The balls of nothingness crashed into the ground with devastating force. Huang was terrified, asking how Qianmo had summoned 2 more spheres so quickly. Qianmo, looking intensely focused, explained that while most people can only manage 1 sphere, his passive skill allows the ball of nothingness to trigger multiple times, making it a perfect offensive tool. He told a satisfied Huang to follow him, promising that more miracles were on the way. A notification appeared congratulating the duo on their victory. They had completed the test in 2 hours and 14 minutes. Despite their team average being only level 24, they had secured first place, beating the second place team by a massive 37 minutes. The other warriors at the podium were in shock, calling Qianmo an invincible for achieving such a lopsided victory. Qianmo raised his umbrella weapon as more rewards flooded in. He opened a treasure chest and pulled out a level 35 shoulder armor. He checked Huang's reward and saw he had obtained a second circle ghost form item. Qianmo advised him that if he decided to sell it, he shouldn't take anything less than 50 million coins. The goblin, actually a disguised plant spirit, approached Qianmo and thanked him for the rescue. He explained that he had accidentally discovered a secret and handed Qianmo a letter. He instructed Qianmo to bury the letter at specific coordinates to verify a new mission before disappearing with a final word of thanks. Huang leaned in, realizing they had just unlocked a legendary hidden mission. Qianmo explained that the only way to trigger it was to free the goblin within 10 minutes, a feat nearly impossible in a standard run. He noted that the mission would require a lot more effort, and their current levels weren't quite high enough yet, so they would challenge it later. Huang agreed they needed to level up fast, but Qianmo put a hand on his shoulder and told him there was one more place he wanted to show him first. They moved through the thick forest until they reached a Yuxi slope. Qianmo signaled Huang to use his sword to smash a specific section of the wall. Huang was amazed to find the rock was surprisingly weak, wondering how Qianmo knew it was a hidden entrance. When the wall crumbled, Huang stared at a glowing ancient altar. He gasped, saying he had only seen such a thing in books. He knew that this altar allowed a player to steal skills from other specializations, a massive advantage for someone at level 26. Qianmo explained that the map from his hidden mission had guided him here. Huang was so overcome with gratitude that he tried to hug Qianmo, shouting about how much he appreciated the help. Qianmo pushed him away, telling him to stop acting like that and go activate the altar so they could see what rare skills were available for the taking. Wang reaches out to touch the altar, and his body is instantly enveloped in a roaring fire. When the glow fades, he announces with a grin that he has successfully learned Outburst of Anger, a powerful warrior skill that is incredibly effective for a swordsman. Excited by the result, he leaps back and tells Qianmo it's his turn, eager to see what the altar will grant him. Qianmo looks up at the ancient stone, thinking that while a typical level 26 player can only master one skill here, his unique path might yield something different. As he touches the altar, a flood of notifications fills his vision, presenting him with a wide array of options. He scans the list and chooses the Mad Warrior's Quantum Bomb. A final notification confirms he has mastered the skill. Staring at his hand, Qianmo realizes that with this addition, he has officially become invincible at his current level. Later, Qianmo returns to the blacksmith's forge, the air still thick with smoke. The blacksmith is shocked to see him, admitting he never expected Qianmo to actually set a record. Qianmo asks to use the furnace for a few days, explaining that he wants to reach the intermediate level of forging through an introductory course. The blacksmith is stunned, noting that Qianmo is only a third-year student with 4 days left before his exams. He argues that reaching intermediate level requires 10,000 experience points, a task that usually takes at least 40 days of grueling work. However, Qianmo simply dumps a pile of materials onto the table. The blacksmith's jaw drops when he counts at least 50 CGA bloodstones. He can't understand how Qianmo gathered so many, given their incredibly low drop rate. Qianmo just smiles, knowing his high critical hit rate and the sphere of nothingness made the grind much more efficient. Seeing the stones, the blacksmith changes his tune, excited by the miracles they can work with such rare materials. 3 days of intense work pass. When the light in the forge finally goes out, Qianmo checks his notifications while the blacksmith looks on in total disbelief. He calls Qianmo a monster, noting that in just 72 hours, Qianmo didn't just earn 10,000 experience. He successfully crafted 46 out of 50 possible high-quality items. He admits that Qianmo's 92% success rate makes even his own experience on the continent of the Genesis look amateur. Qianmo leaves his crafted items with the blacksmith, telling him to sell them at his own discretion, and promises to return after his entrance exams. Qianmo heads back to school, where Yanmin is waiting for him. Yanmin admits he was worried Qianmo had forgotten about the exams entirely. When Qianmo senses people nearby, he asks if they are planning to ambush him. Yanmin assures him it isn't an ambush and begins detailing the exam logistics. The venue is a massive sports ground in the center of Hu City, where over 400,000 students will compete. He explains that Zhong City is a small player among the 32 cities in the province, so the competition will be fierce. The exam takes place in a level 20 secret realm containing 4 bosses. Students must defeat at least 2 to pass. Yanmin emphasizes that there is only one attempt, and today's results will set the limit for Qianmo's future career. He tells Qianmo that Zhong Academy is buzzing with excitement because he is their greatest pride, and then he offers to show him a surprise. Yanmin pulls back a curtain to reveal a massive gathering of students. He announces that all third-year students are heading out for exams today, but before they leave, the board has an announcement. He points to Qianmo and declares that they have unanimously decided to name him an honorary director of the academy. Qianmo is taken aback, wondering how a student can hold such a title, but the faculty approves with a round of applause. Yanmin tells him he earned it through the fame he brought to the school. He promises that no matter what difficulties Qianmo faces at university, Zhong Academy will always be his home and they will always have his back. Qianmo took a deep breath, striking a determined pose and shouting that he would never let Zhong Academy down. Yanmin pointed out that since Qianmo had previously turned down the special quota, the academy had awarded it to Luo Jing instead. Luo Jing walked over, resting a hand on his arm, and asked which of the top 10 universities he was aiming for. Li Hong suddenly hugged the protagonist and joked that Luo Jing was too shy to say it herself, but she was so in love that she planned to follow Qianmo wherever he went. Qianmo jokingly grabbed Li Hong by the ear, asking if his friend had become a romance novelist instead of studying his combat recommendations. Li Hong laughed and insisted he had read every single one. Around them, the other students whispered that Luo Jing's beauty and Qianmo's strength made them the province's ultimate power couple. Suddenly, Qianmo's phone rang. He was surprised to find a member of the standing committee of the Tianhai Association on the line, requesting a meeting on the day of the entrance exam. As the buses pulled up to the massive arena, Li Hong noted that Luo Jing was a great catch and asked why Qianmo hadn't started dating her yet. Qianmo crossed his arms, focused on the upcoming test. He recalled the mysterious old man from his past life and wondered if the committee member was the same person. He knew he couldn't have made it this far without that hidden support. When the Zhong Academy buses stopped, students from other schools began to grumble. They complained about the number of cars arriving from a small school, accusing them of taking up parking spots belonging to the province's top-ranked academy. A student named Jing told his group to be quiet, but Bobby sneered, asking how a bunch of rednecks from Zhong dared to cause a conflict with them. Kang Yang looked on as Chief Wu, the committee member, walked toward the crowd. Chief Wu noted that everyone seemed high energy for such an early morning. He told the group he would handle the management and report their arrival. However, Chief Wu clarified he was there on personal business and walked straight to Qianmo to ask how he was doing. Jing was stunned. He couldn't understand why a high-ranking official from the standing committee would travel all that way just to meet a student from a worthless school like Zhang. Chief Wu ignored the stares and told the management to give the prime parking spaces to Zhang Academy. He then handed Qianmo a box, explaining it was a gift from the Demon University. Yanmin was floored, realizing that even the 10th-ranked university in the country was sending Qianmo presents. Qianmo smiled and asked Chief Wu to pass along his thanks. Chief Wu promised to convey the message, noting that Qianmo should be proud of his progress. Yanmin watched them, feeling that Zhang Academy's status was rising by the second, and wondered what other surprises Qianmo had in store. Meanwhile, at the Provincial Monitoring Center, experts were busy tracking the candidates. They noted that some schools were being publicly humiliated by the new rankings. As they looked at the list of the top 1,000 most promising students, Jing pointed out that, while the first 300 were impressive, the rest seemed lackluster. Suddenly, the screen updated. Jing saw a talented student in second place and looked to see who was in first. He nearly jumped out of his seat when he saw Qianmo's profile, level 20 with an SS rating. The room erupted in noise as officials wondered where this monster came from, especially since the northern province had never produced an SS grade student before. They were baffled by his freedom-loving specialization and the fact that his specific talent was listed as unavailable, wondering if he had simply never used it. Jing muttered that Qianmo was likely too arrogant and would eventually fail. Back at the arena, the host announced that the exam would take place in the level 20 secret kingdom of Naran. To pass, candidates had to defeat at least 2 of the 4 bosses. A bright light filled the stadium as the teleportation began. Qianmo reached out his hand, knowing that today's performance would set the course for his entire future. He put on his cloak, determined to demonstrate his true power. He thought to himself that this was the only way to gain the status he needed to protect those he cared about. He refused to lose everything again or rely on others for help. He needed to be the strongest. Staring straight ahead into the portal, he declared that it was time to take action. Qianmo stands at the threshold of the trial, visualizing the structure of the secret kingdom. He realizes that the blue star system allows for a single critical boost to be applied before entry. Since he had already meticulously upgraded his skill set, he scans his options and selects basic growth. As he activates the green seal, the monitoring screens in the observation hall begin to flicker and update. The audience erupts into a frenzy. Officials jump to their feet, staring at the data in disbelief. Qianmo's rank has shifted from an already impressive SS to a legendary SS grade. He is officially the first student in the history of the country to achieve such a rating. The scene shifts to Morgan, once known as the City of Wonders. What was once the pinnacle of high-tech innovation is now a radiation-soaked graveyard of mutated monsters and haywire machinery. Qianmo is teleported directly to the entrance of Morgan's underground palace. The exam has officially begun. As he descends the stairs, Qianmo finds them swarming with mutant rats, creatures the size of wolves. Refusing to waste a single second, he uses his umbrella spear to vault over the pack and dives deep into a massive opening in the floor. He lands in a pool of glowing, unidentifiable liquid and smiles. He has reached the first boss, his old friend, the sticky sludge. The monster screams, its mouth gaping wide. Qianmo notes that this version of the sludge is twice as strong as the one he faced before, with an extra 500 life points. Undeterred, he calls forth his machine gun, noting that his current power gives him a massive advantage. He opens fire, landing a single devastating headshot that dissolves the monster instantly. In the assembly hall, Jing watches the feed with his jaw dropped. He notes that while only a quarter of the participants are even showing progress, Qianmo has already cleared the first boss in a matter of minutes. The officials are desperate for a replay, unable to fathom how he finished the fight so quickly. They agree they cannot take their eyes off him. Qianmo soon finds himself facing a literal army of robots. The observers are terrified, noting that these machines are programmed to drop high-yield explosives even on level 20 targets. They assume Qianmo is being reckless, but the analyst in glasses points out that this is the power of an SS rank student, a superior buff in action. Qianmo begins to move like a ghost, weaving through a rain of explosions with surgical precision. The hall erupts again. He's predicting the future. Not a single bomb has touched him. The second boss, a giant spider robot, emerges just as the 100 mechanical mobs close in from all sides. Yanmin watches intently, wondering how Qianmo will handle being surrounded. Qianmo dives into a pool of pink liquid to reposition, then leaps onto the spider robot, delivering a massive electric shock. As the airborne bombs begin to fall toward him, Qianmo summons his staff. He sprints to the side and strikes a lead robot, causing a chain reaction. One by one, the 100 mobs collapse directly onto the spider boss, triggering a cataclysmic explosion that clears the entire room. As Qianmo calmly walks into the next passage, the monitoring center is in an uproar. He defeated a boss and 100 elite mobs using only 2 basic skills. An absolute genius! They cry. The first in 100 years. Jing orders all main screens to be switched to Qianmo's feed, declaring that Qianmo is now the primary focus of the entire province. While the crowd celebrates, the representative from Hanu Academy clenches his fist in silent rage. He feels that Qianmo has stolen the glory that belonged to his school. However, he realizes that with 100 eyes now watching Qianmo's every move, the boy has no room for even a single mistake. Qianmo steps out onto the metallic surface of the green robot, the third boss of the Morgan Underground Palace. He recognizes the machine for what it is, a high-efficiency killing machine. Qianmo knows that defeating this boss is the golden ticket to the country's top 10 universities, but the difficulty is tuned to keep almost everyone out. The robot activates its primary skill, raging energy. Every 5 seconds, its energy resets, pulsing a wave of radiation that deals 5% physical damage to everyone within a 50-meter radius. In a war of attrition, any normal player would lose 60% of their health in a single minute, making death a mathematical certainty. Qianmo simply rests a hand on his elbow, dismissing the massive machine as a mere bug. He lunges forward, delivering a flurry of strikes before sliding under the robot's chassis. He spins his weapon in a whirlwind of steel. In the monitoring center, the audience is screaming at the screens. They can't believe he's ignoring standard defensive tactics, yet he remains completely unscathed. The analyst in glasses points out the impossible. The boss's passive radiation damage isn't ticking on Qianmo at all. Jing realizes the truth with a shock. Qianmo is timing his movements within a 10-millisecond window. The observers discuss the mechanic of instant invincibility. Most specializations have skills that grant a split second of immunity to all damage, but because the window is so incredibly tight, almost no one can utilize it consistently. Qianmo, however, is using his arc strike, a heavy damage skill with a 3-meter range, to trigger these iframes exactly as the robot's energy pulses. Qianmo shouts as he activates a 5-second boost, instantly swapping his weapon to a long sword. The experts are baffled. The martial arts style he's demonstrating is of a unique legendary rank that a level 20 student shouldn't even know exists. They whisper that he must be an undercover elite or a reincarnated master. Yanman watches Qianmo use these refined attacks and predicts the end is near. With madness in his eyes, Qianmo declares it's time to finish the fight. He unleashes a series of bright energy waves that slam into the green robot, shredding its power points. The final timer stops at 24 minutes. The previous record was 2 hours and 31 minutes. The hall is silent for a beat before erupting. They realize that if Qianmo continues this way, the free-spirited specialization might actually become the most popular path in the country. Finally, Qianmo reaches the mechanical monster, the last boss of the exam. At level 24 with 6,000 horsepowers, it is a nightmare. Its true power lies in its infinite summoning. It can call forth an endless tide of minions. To win, a player must damage the boss and the minions simultaneously. If you lose focus for even a second, you are swallowed by the mechanical horde. Most consider this level mathematically impossible to solo. Qianmo stares at the monstrosity and simply says that while others failed, he only needs 2 minutes. The air fills with the sounds of machinery as the boss triggers its full arsenal. The summoning of the elf, counterattackers, magicians, puppets, self-detonators, crown cannons, and trap hunters. A legion of monsters descends upon Qianmo, surrounding him in a ring of steel and magic. Qianmo positions his weapon, preparing for the final sequence. In a dazzling display of tactical mastery, he calls upon a series of high-level summons: the Master of the Soul of the Blade, Master of Destruction, Blessing of Light, Voice of the Heavenly Torturer, and the Avenger of Light. The experts in the observation hall are stunned, shouting that Qianmo is summoning an entire divine army just to barricade the minions so he can focus exclusively on the boss. Some skeptics point out that he's already spent nearly 2 minutes just on the summoning ritual, but Qianmo isn't finished. He swaps to his machine gun and coldly declares, "Okay, it's time to start." The core of the mechanical monster ignites with a blinding light as explosions rock the chamber. Qianmo's eyes flash with focus. The boss's massive health pool begins to vanish at an impossible rate. With a final thunderous bam, Qianmo lands the killing blow. The hall falls into a shocked silence. The entire battle was decided in a single final second. Meanwhile, Oscar from the prestigious Hanu Academy had been confident. Having cleared his second boss in just 30 minutes, he was certain the championship was his. His world is shattered when the scoreboard updates. Congratulations to Qianmo of Zhang Academy, champion of Hu Province. Qianmo set an absolute record, clearing the entire SS rank secret realm in just 30 minutes. Oscar and the rest of the Hanu Academy elite, including Fred, who ranked 6th, are left in total disbelief. Hanu Academy, the perennial powerhouse, has been completely dethroned. Nearby, Luojing grips her weapon and stares at the board, vowing to work her hardest to keep up with him, while Li Hong cheers that Qianmo has performed yet another miracle to put their school on the map. Outside, Qianmo's popularity explodes. Fans are screaming his name, calling him handsome and powerful, and many students are already filing paperwork to to transfer to Zhang Academy just to be near him. One official, witnessing the fervor, stands up and calls Qianmo a divine messenger, acknowledging that a talent like this only appears once in 1,000 years. Yanmin, reflecting on the victory, notes that Qianmo's hidden trump cards perfectly shifted the game's momentum at the critical moment. Qianmo looks at the scoreboard, satisfied, but he remains grounded. He knows that while his summons worked perfectly here, reproducing such a complex setup in a real, unpredictable fight will be difficult as enhancements lose their effectiveness over time. Because of his SSS rank performance, Qianmo's final score reached an incredible 182,933 points, unlocking a diamond treasure chest. Qianmo is surprised by the sheer amount of experience gained. It is almost unheard of for a level 20 secret realm to offer such a high-tier reward. Inside, he finds a rare S-rank skill book, Basic Attack Speed. Qianmo is thrilled. Due to his specialization restrictions, he normally has limited access to high-level texts, so getting an S-rank book now is a massive stroke of luck. This skill perfectly compensates for his agility limit, a threshold where his attack speed would normally start to plateau as his agility increases. By mastering this technique, he ensures his speed will never stagnate. The system confirms a 15% increase in base attack speed, bringing Qianmo's total bonus to 32.8%. He clenches his fist, knowing his speed now surpasses not just his peers, but even most level 30 veterans. Finally, Qianmo uses holy water to reveal the last hidden reward from the boss, the leprosy mask. This rare item allows him to completely alter his appearance, height, and weight, with a 12-hour recharge, giving him the perfect tool for covert operations. As Qianmo emerges into the public square, he is greeted by a sea of faces. The huge digital boards overhead flash with his name and the title of champion. People cheer, calling him the man born once in 1,000 years and the future of the nation. They look to him as the one who will overcome all obstacles and lead their country to glory. Qianmo frowns as he listens to the government officials' patriotic rhetoric. He realizes they are trying to paint him as a national symbol, a move that ensures he'll be on the front lines if a monster invasion ever occurs. He grits his teeth, thinking about the horror of being used as a political pawn. When the officials ask Qianmo if he understands his role, he coolly pivots, suggesting that the floor be given to the teachers who raised him. He tells the crowd he just wants to find teammates who will fight by his side in the future. He knows the state doesn't care about his personal opinion, but he is determined to find like-minded allies for the battlefield. He then turns a sharp tongue toward the faculty, mocking their supposed joy at his victory. He asks if these experienced educators will be joining him in future battles since they are so proud of him. The teachers nervously laugh it off, claiming their powers aren't nearly as great as his. Qianmo pounces on the opening, calling their words careless. He points out the absurdity. They are level 40 teachers, yet they claim a level 20 student is more powerful? He questions their loyalty to the homeland, asking if they have ulterior motives or are simply too weak to protect their country. The teachers panic, accusing Qianmo of trying to turn them into cannon fodder, but their outbursts only lead to their downfall. Jing, representing the education department, steps in to end the scene. He summarily fires the 6 teachers, blacklisting them from future employment and downgrading Zhang Academy's rating to 2 stars for 5 years. Despite the teachers' desperate pleas about feeding their families, Jing ignores them, turning to Qianmo and praising not just his talent, but his strategic intelligence. Chief Wu then asks Jing to prepare a private conference room. He needs to speak with the champion alone. In the conference room, Chief Wu asks Qianmo if he has any connections to the top management of the Xia country. Qianmo mentions a mysterious man he met while fishing. When Qianmo places a specific ring on the table, the gift from the old man, Chief Wu nearly falls out of his chair. Chief Wu realizes Qianmo has won the favor of the Elder, the only 4th-rank battle mage in the country. At level 75, this man is the pinnacle of Xia's power. Chief Wu is baffled. The Elder is known for being an eccentric recluse who never makes friends. He refuses to reveal the Elder's true identity to Qianmo, but stresses that the man is the most powerful person in the nation. He leans in and gives Qianmo one piece of advice: wear that ring at all times. It is your ultimate protection. Meanwhile, the news in Zhang City is dominated by the exam results. Headlines celebrate Zhang Academy's brilliant victory, noting that Qianmo's performance alone pushed the school to the 2nd spots in the entire province. Outside the academy gates, the scene is chaotic. Students marvel at the long line of luxury cars. Representatives from 16 of the top 30 universities have arrived, including recruiters from the 5th best school in the country. They are all there for one reason: to court Qianmo. Inside the academy's conference room, Yanmin officially welcomes the recruiters. He pulls up the data for the top students on a massive screen, but the recruiters can't stop staring at Qianmo's profile. They are stunned to see his combat power exceeding 20,000 units. Wang Shi, the director of the Demon Academy, admits that Qianmo is already stronger than half of his own university students combined. Looking at Qianmo's clean biography, Wang Shi realizes that even if he can't recruit the boy, he must immediately move to settle all past misunderstandings between the Demon Academy and Qianmo. Yunli from Lannan Academy watches watches Qianmo with a sharp, calculating smile. He recalls Huang's glowing recommendation and realizes Huang wasn't exaggerating. This kid is something else. Yunli knows his mission is clear. He has to bring Qianmo to Lannan. Half an hour later, Yanmin stands before the gathered recruiters. The atmosphere in the room is electric. Yanmin explains that since every single university is demanding a private audience with Qianmo, the typical voting process won't work. He suggests they find a way to streamline the interviews, but the recruiters aren't having it. The room erupts in protest. 16 separate negotiations for one student? Someone shouts. That's impossible! Wang Shi, the director of the Demon Academy, speaks up with a surprising grin. He suggests that a genius of Qianmo's caliber deserves a break from tradition. He proposes a public open interview session. Yunli from Lannan immediately backs him up. The other recruiters grumble. They realize that when 2 of the top 10 universities align, they have no choice but to follow along. Even Baking University quickly joins the consensus, eager to see the SSS-rank prodigy with 22,000 combat power in action. An assistant enters and hands Yanmin the latest placement results. The news is staggering. Zhang Academy's success rate has soared past 60%. Luo Jing has been admitted to the prestigious Baking University, while others have secured spots at Lannan and the Demon Academy. Yanmin is dazed, realizing his small-town students are now the most coveted recruits in the province. He looks toward the conference hall, knowing that while the school is flourishing, the final choice for the province's champion lies solely with Qianmo. Qianmo stands in the center of the hall, the eyes of the nation's academic elite fixed upon him. Wang Shi approaches first, surprisingly humble. He acknowledges the misunderstandings involving Hongshan and Ding Hong, expressing hope that Qianmo doesn't hold a grudge against the Demon Academy. Qianmo narrows his eyes, realizing the Demon Academy is desperate to bury the hatchet before he becomes even more powerful. Yunli Baot introduces himself next, mentioning Huang's high praise. Qianmo is caught off guard. He hadn't realized Huang had been talking him up to the Lannan faculty. He curses silently, wondering what else that bastard Huang told them. The chairman of the Oracle Academy calls the room to order, urging everyone to move past the flattery. Qianmo is surprised to see even the Oracle Academy, a school known for its extreme exclusivity, vying for his attention. The representative from Qingbei Academy gets straight to the point. 16 of the best schools in Xia are here for you. Tell us, why did you choose the path of a free-spirited person? Qianmo meets his gaze and answers flatly, to lead the Genesis. A ripple of shock goes through the room. Arrogant, someone scoffs. Ren Heng, a level 50 ice mage representing Bino Academy, stands up. He tells Qianmo that while youthful ambition is fine, he needs to be realistic. He argues that free spirits have a hard limit that they can never surpass, which is why most top schools are hesitant to bet on them. He challenges Qianmo, if you're so confident, show us how you plan to lead. Qianmo doesn't flinch. He asks if everyone truly believes free spirits are weaker and invites them to test the theory themselves. Ren Heng, amused by the boy's persistence, agrees to a duel. He offers a deal. If Qianmo wins, Ren Heng will retract his words and treat him with the highest honor. The two square off in the center of the hall. Ren Heng announces that he has capped his power at level 21 to keep the fight fair and show Qianmo the true gap in skill at equal levels. The audience whispers, concerned that a level 50 master, even capped, is too much for a student. Some think Qianmo needs to be taught a lesson in humility. Ice shards, Ren Heng commands, sending a volley of frozen needles toward the boy. Qianmo doesn't even move. He simply raises his transforming weapon and tells Ren Heng he'll show him what real speed looks like. A blur of motion follows. Qianmo's machine gun roars, and a hail of bullets tears through the air. The ice shards are shattered instantly. Ren Heng is hit before he can even blink, the force of the impact sending him skidding across the floor until he collapses. The room falls into a deafening silence. Qianmo lowers his weapon and coolly asks if anyone else wants to try. The recruiters are in a state of shock. In just 1 second, someone gasps. What kind of fire rate is that? Wang Shi grins to himself, finally understanding what his own students went through when they faced Qianmo. Yunli from Lannan scowls, wondering why Huang didn't mention Qianmo was this fast. He realizes that the free-spirited path, in Qianmo's hands, has no limits at all. The university representatives began a frantic bidding war, each trying to outdo the last with increasingly desperate offers. One school promised 2 A-rank skill books and 8 million coins. Another counter-offered with 3 A-rank books, free tuition, and a luxury apartment in the capital. The stakes escalated until one recruiter shouted that Qianmo would receive 10 A-rank books immediately upon enrollment, plus a room with a river view. Yunli from Lannan Academy, determined not to lose, played his trump card. He offered Qianmo full, unrestricted access to their entire library of A-rank books. The crowd was stunned by Yunli's ruthlessness. Wang Shi from the Demon Academy muttered about how cunning the offer was, realizing that access to a whole library was a game changer. Finally, the representative from the Oracle Academy, who had been silent, was invited to speak. Unlike the others, he didn't offer gold or books. He simply offered Qianmo the right to access their exclusive secret realm and assistance in strengthening his attributes. The other recruiters scoffed, calling the offer insignificant and too luxury compared compared to their piles of gold and skills. Tianmo, however, smirked. He knew that for his unique path, those A-rank books were useless, but the Oracle Academy's secret realm was exactly what he needed to break his limits. Tianmo addressed the room, acknowledging their serious offers. Then, he delivered the shock of the day. "I chose the Oracle Academy." The room exploded in a chorus of wows and whys. People couldn't believe the province champion chose what they considered the worst of the top offers. Later, Tianmo visited Mr. Zhang Lao to check on their business. Zhang Lao reported that they had successfully sold 46 pieces of equipment, netting 920 gold coins. Tianmo handed over a bag of coins, and Zhang Lao asked what his next move was. Tianmo explained he wanted to head to the city of Delay, a 3-day journey, to handle some private business. Zhang Lao nodded, handing Tianmo a mysterious token and suggesting it might be useful on the road. As Tianmo walked down the street, he examined the token, sensing it held a weight far beyond its appearance. He checked his status. After leaving 120 gold with Zhang Lao, he had 933 gold coins remaining. He knew he needed more materials and remembered the map he had taken from Hongshan. It was time to put it to use. Before leaving the newbie village, Tianmo invested heavily in his foundational skills. Over the last 8 days, he had been grinding relentlessly, collecting and refining pills, mining, and leather working. By the time he held a fresh lion's skin in his hands, his experience in these fields had reached 90%. He calculated that by the time he reached DL City, all his basic crafting skills would be at their peak. Tianmo suddenly detected a powerful presence. Mazgus, a level 27 rare boss with a massive 8,000 horsepowers. Mazgus is a nightmare for ordinary players. If you hit him even once without the proper setup, he has a high probability of jumping to level 40. Tianmo prepared himself, knowing he'd need a bit of luck, but noticed someone else had already engaged the beast. He saw a girl named Ruoxi, a level 24 melee mage, struggling for her life. She had managed to land a hit, but her stamina was completely drained. As she turned to flee, screaming at the freak to stay away, Tianmo watches Ruoxi, noting that while she is level 24 and her raw attack power technically outclasses his, she lacked the precision to finish off a boss like Mazgus. As the monster unleashes a devastating wave of energy, Ruoxi closes her eyes, certain her time has run out. Suddenly, a thunderous boom echoes through the clearing. Tianmo teleports directly in front of her, absorbing the impact. He vaults into the air and triggers a lethal chain, double strike, command dance, sudden strike, and slash, followed by a final blinding blow that sends rocks and dust spiraling into the sky. A notification pings. Tianmo has reached level 22. Ruoxi opens her eyes, breathless. She calls him handsome and strong as the scoreboard confirms the victory. Among the loot, Tianmo finds a staff of consonant. Tianmo realizes that while this rare weapon is a dream for mage specializations, he can't use it personally. Still, it's a high-value item that will fetch a massive price. Ruoxi wipes her eyes, baffled that a level 22 free-spirited player could solo a boss that she, at level 24, couldn't touch. Tianmo explains that his power comes from his 38% attack speed. Ruoxi is stunned. Her own SS level talent for high speed only reaches 40%, yet Tianmo moves with more efficiency. He bluntly tells her that while her close combat tactics are decent, she hasn't yet grasped the true essence of her mage powers. Ruoxi is left speechless. How could a free-spirited man understand the intricacies of a melee mage so perfectly? As Tianmo turns to leave, effortlessly clearing a path through minor mobs in seconds, Ruoxi follows him, realizing she could learn more just by watching him than she ever could on her own. Tianmo points toward the horizon. Delay is ahead. Let's move. Ruoxi introduces herself properly, though she quickly gets flustered and turns away, shouting that she hates him to hide her embarrassment. Suddenly, the sky shifts. A bloody moon hangs low, crossing the horizon. A system-wide alarm blares. The city of Daily is under siege by monsters. Arrival in 5 minutes. Ruoxi panics, noting that they are still too far from the city to reach safety before the wave hits. Tianmo remains calm, explaining that since Daily is a small city, the monsters should be manageable. He scans the terrain and finds exactly what he's looking for, a secluded, defensible spot nearby. Without a word, Tianmo grabs Ruoxi and tosses her onto his back. She shrieks, demanding to know what he's doing, but he simply tells her he's saving her life. As he sprints forward, Ruoxi holds on tight, her initial anger melting into a strange sense of comfort. As the first wave of monsters appears on the horizon, she offers to help, realizing that if they fight together, they might just survive the night. Tianmo told her flatly that it was better for her to stay still and keep her head down. Her moving around would only slow down his draw speed. Ruoxi, insulted by the suggestion that she was a burden, bared her teeth and bit him hard on the shoulder. Tianmo winced, wondering to himself if she was actually a descendant of demons, and how he had managed to get stuck with such a high-maintenance partner. They finally reached a defensible point. Tianmo gestured toward a clear path and told her to run in that direction as fast as possible. When Ruoxi asked what he planned to do, he told her not to worry. He could clear the mobs faster on his own. alone and would buy her the time she needed to escape. Ruoxi was bewildered, wondering how a level 22 free-spirited guy expected to solo an entire horde. She felt a pang of guilt, wondering if this stranger was really prepared to sacrifice his life for someone he had just met. Before she could leave, a sudden tremor in the ground sent them both tumbling. Tianmo frowned as they scrambled for balance, realizing that if they kept falling, they'd be sitting ducks. After a tense moment of bracing against the environment, the shaking stopped. Tianmo sighed, saying they were safe for now, but Ruoxi snapped at him to watch where he was leaning, her face flushed with embarrassment. As the adrenaline faded, Ruoxi leaned against him, exhausted. She told him sternly that once they got out of this mess, he was never to speak of what had just happened. Tianmo simply agreed. "By the way," Ruoxi said, her voice softening, "I still don't know your name," to which Tianmo replied, "My name is Tianmo." Ruoxi narrowed her eyes. "You were following me earlier. Why?" She gave him exactly 3 seconds to answer. Tianmo closed his eyes, thinking she was a total devil for interrogating him now. He stammered that he just wanted to look at her, then quickly corrected himself at her abilities. Ruoxi grinned suspicious, and Tianmo cowered slightly, hoping the nearby monsters would start raging again just to distract her from the questions. They finally made a break for it, leaping upward to clear the final ridge of the secluded pass. As they landed on stable ground, Tianmo announced they were finally out of danger. Ruoxi immediately turned away with a huff. Tianmo looked at her in confusion, realizing her clothes had been shredded during the frantic escape. He offered to help her find something to wear, noting that his leather processing skill had just leveled up. Tianmo pulled some basic materials from his inventory and got to work. He handed her a piece of processed hide, apologizing that his skills were still low tier and this was the best he could manage. Ruoxi snatched it from him, warning him not to peek while she changed. Tianmo sighed, wondering why she thought he'd even want to. When she stepped out, Tianmo's jaw dropped. He let out an involuntary exclamation, and Ruoxi's face turned bright red. "What?" she screamed. "This is what you made? You did this on purpose, didn't you?" A system notification appeared. "Congratulations on crafting simple clothes from animal skin." Tianmo tried to explain that it wasn't intentional. The low-level recipe simply had a minimal design. He realized too late that he probably should have just given her his cloak earlier. As she walked away, Ruoxi muttered that men were the absolute worst creatures on the planet, and that her mother was right about there not being a single good guy in the world. Tianmo watched her go, thinking to himself that he really felt sorry for her father. And with that, this video ends. Like and subscribe for the next one.